Co-publisher, South End News.
Correct.
Bay Windows.
Correct.
NECN you're on.
Correct.
And Current something.
NBCLX.
What is Current?
Current is a daily show that airs for an hour,
Exactly.
3 times a day on NBCLX across the nation, Jim. It's
You
a
are
national
kidding
show.
me.
It's a national show.
That would be Sue O'Connell, and she does all those things. Sue, it's great to see you.
Good to see you.
So last night, in a rare address to the nation, President Biden made this plea for action on guns in America.
My fellow Americans, enough. Enough. It's time for each of us to do our part. It's time to act for the children we've lost, for the children we can save, for the nation we love. Let's hear the call and the cry. Let's meet the moment. Let us finally do something.
Let's. But it's not just on guns that it seems we can't find much common ground in America. Yesterday, we were talking to Bill McKibben, the noted environmentalist. There's the divide on climate change, the pandemic, 100 days into the war in Ukraine, division on what to do on that front. Even baby formula couldn't get unanimous support in Congress. And in a new poll out of the Southern Poverty Law Center, get this, 44% of our fellow Americans say we're headed toward another civil war. 53% of Republicans say we're headed that way. So we're opening the lines and asking you, and I probably am going to regret this, are you among the 44%? And assuming you are not and actually inhabit planet Earth, do you have a reunification strategy for this country? You can call us or text us at 877-301-8970, or you can tweet us at BOS Public Radio. Were you surprised by those numbers?
No, I actually think we are already in a cold civil war. I think that we have already kind of divided. And I would posit that the roots go back to Newt Gingrich. Back in the 90s, when Newt figured out that if he addressed an empty Congress and was on C-SPAN, he could actually make his own broadcast television station and really fire up the divides that we've all naturally had. I mean, we've always been a divided country. I think everyone's divided. But I think over the past, 30 years, 40 years, it really has become an us or them sort of issue on almost every single issue. The fact that we are relitigating Roe v. Wade and abortion access, we are relitigating same-sex marriage, we are continuing to litigate gun control, even though the majority of Americans on all 3 of those issues, just the tip of the iceberg, believe one thing, and then a smaller minority is controlling the conversation.
You know, I agree with your analysis, the cold civil war. I'm not sure that people responding to this poll were talking cold, because let me give you another number that I was contemplating not even bringing into the conversation. It is so shocking and upsetting. This is the same Southern Poverty Law Center poll. 1/5 of respondents in this country support an assassination of a politician who, quote, harms the country or our democracy. It's essentially like 20% of people were at January 6th. I mean, that's essentially what and you know what's even more aggravating? We'll get to your calls and texts in a minute, 877-301-8970. If I had to say to you, close your eyes, don't close your eyes, but if I had to say to you, close your eyes, imagine the least polarizing president in our lifetime, you'd say, let me see, Joe Biden. I mean, Joe Biden, even if he disagrees with you on an issue, he's conciliatory, he's collaborative, he's old school.
He's
in
a
terms
good person.
Right, and you really would have a hard time saying he is not a good, decent person of faith. And this is the divide under the least polarizing of presidents. You don't seem as
because I feel like I've been living with it, and I feel like during the marriage equality battles here in Massachusetts, and watching what was happening in the churches and watching what was happening at the State House, just how fever pitch some of the opponents to same-sex marriage were, it frightened me. I mean, it was a scary situation. I mean, I'd been to many political rallies and many protests. I had never seen people so against something to me that didn't seem like that big a deal. It just seemed like
Not only so, again, so angry about and being against something.
And I think, obviously social media has amplified that. Everybody has their own broadcast station now. You don't need to do anything to take any training or go to journalism school or understand what the freedom of speech really means or understand what your words may do if you put something out there. Everybody has a Twitter or a Facebook or an Instagram, and they have their own broadcast station with their own audience. And, except for the fact that most of the people of that percent who believe that, a leader should be assassinated or believe that these issues that most Americans agree on are wrong, they're all dependent upon federal money. Their states, the red states, could not exist without the blue states. I think that's really the only thing keeping us from a full-on separation negotiation, if you will.
Do you happen, on that note, by the way, do you happen to know what state that has two wildly anti-government senators receives the greatest percentage reimbursement?
Alaska.
Kentucky.
Kentucky.
Mitch McConnell
Right.
and Rand Paul, neither of whom believe in government.
Alaska's right up there, too,
Is that
by
so?
the way. Yeah.
But Lisa Murkowski is not a
Right,
nut job.
right.
I mean, she's whatever.
Yeah.
In any case, let me read you two texts before we get started. Natalie from Gloucester says, we are already in a civil war, and it's not a cold one. And I assume she's talking about people with guns, and that's probably, and those who support people with guns. I think it's probably true. But this next person who didn't sign this is sort of trumpeting something that Art Caplan, our medical ethicist, he's on today, he was with us last week, talking, I think, semi-seriously about dividing into two countries. Why do we have to go to war, writes this texter. I've been saying this since Trump was elected. Can't we progressives, I don't even think it's progressives, I think normal, sane people just separate from all the Trump-loving, Tucker Carlson-admiring, gun-toting pro-lifers? Wouldn't we all just be happier? Our progressive country could have reasonable common sense gun laws, and I, for one, would feel a heck of a lot safer. I'd feel much more in control of my body, and frankly, would never step foot in Trump land.
I had a guest on Current who wrote a book about
That's a
this.
national show, by the way. I don't know if you're aware of that.
A national show. You can watch it anywhere in the world.
Exactly. What?
About secession, like how,
And?
and he said, well, look, countries do it all the time. You can look at any map from 30 years ago, 50 years ago. The maps keep changing around the world, and America has this idea that we are just going to stay this way. This is how we are. But his point was, the one that I just stole from him, and now I'm outing myself on that, is that we are so intertwined regarding our finances and our defense that it would be very difficult to say, okay, Texas, that's what you want to do. We're going to take our funds. You go that way. We'll go this way. So the answer may be some sort of European Union sort of agreement where we are not
Among
one
the
country
states.
among the states,
Yeah.
which is sort of what some of the founders originally had said. Instead of having a United States, why don't we have states that are united?
By the way, Amy from Mason, New Hampshire was the person who wrote that text. Let's take some calls. Jasper from Marlboro, you're on Boston Public Radio. Thank you for calling. Hi.
Well, hello again. Pleasure to hear from you guys.
Well, it's a pleasure to hear from you. What's up?
So when you guys mentioned about the whole Civil War thing, the first thing that came to mind is COVID, like in the sense that so many doctors and nurses at the start of the COVID pandemic, they were the canaries in the coal mine. They were, quote unquote, the heroes. And now, especially in red states, they want to see their heroes dead. They want to see their heroes in jail. Like they're suing over anything from reproductive rights to saving trans lives to even COVID vaccines.
Yeah, I mean it is when you look at the institutionalists in our society, and doctors, nurses being some of them, judges, the reaction that they are getting from the public who are, especially healthcare, trying to save your life. I'll never forget at the beginning of the pandemic, the picture of that, I don't know if it was a doctor or nurse standing in front of a car protesting, wearing masks, and it just seems to me, I haven't experienced this level of delusion when having a conversation with people. I mean, I love to argue with people and have talks with people when I'm out and about and out at dinner, but there are now people where I ask them two questions, and if they answer the wrong way to either one of them, and it is the wrong way, I'm not going to engage with them.
What are they? Don't leave us in suspense.
One is, did Joe Biden win the election?
He did, right?
Yeah, he did.
He did, okay.
If you
What's
say
the
no,
other one?
I'm out of here.
Okay.
And what do you think about QAnon? and then then I'm just not going to talk to you because it's not worth it.
Jasper, thank you for your call. Here's Nick from Brighton. Eliminating the Electoral College and instituting term limits and national mandate votes. Trump was a minority president in terms of votes. I don't know if people are aware, you don't need to amend the Constitution to get rid of the Electoral College. Massachusetts is part of a compact, the name of which always escapes me, that says when a majority of states, with states with a majority of electoral votes sign on to this thing, then the electoral votes of any state will automatically be given to anybody who wins the national direct vote, meaning we'd essentially eliminate the electoral college through the back door if a number of states did the right thing. Gary and Milton, you're on Boston Public Radio. Thanks for calling. Hi.
Hello.
Hello to you.
Oh, hey, from Littleton, actually, not Milton.
Oh, sorry about that.
Been listening for a while and opportunity to call and was thinking about those midterms coming up, and if, with the abortion issue going on in the Supreme Court and then this gun control, if that doesn't activate and get the Democratic base active, then nothing will. But once it does, if they actually succeed, that's when you're going to see gun control. I don't think anything's going to happen until the midterms. And if the Democrats do succeed in that, then you're going to have the problem with Republicans who want their guns. If there's major legislation ending guns in America, I mean, can you imagine what the right would do then?
Well,
and I think that's what's going to lead to the civil war that you're talking about.
Gary, I think what a difference, and I think what Joe Biden did last night in his address, and Jim, I don't know if I've ever heard these words come out of a leader before, directly addressing the owners of guns and firearms who keep them safe and who do the right thing and follow the rules. And I think at that moment, Joe Biden shifted the conversation a bit, that it's not just about those of us who may be against people having firearms or want stricter gun laws, but actually putting it on the people who are, by great majority, law-abiding and don't get in any trouble and keep their firearms safe, and asking them to lead the charge, if you will, trying to get better gun legislation. And I think that's going to be a shift in the conversation.
By the way, that subgroup that you're talking about, and you too, Gary, thank you for the call, support overwhelmingly almost all the gun safety reforms that are being spoken about, including assault weapon bans and that.
Yeah. So what that puts you up now, if you run into a gun owner, you can ask them, what are you doing to keep us safe? That really changes the dynamic of the conversation.
John Rosenthal, who I'm sure you've interviewed, the great John Rosenthal from Stop Handgun Violence. When you talk to John, who's been relentless, he's the one who was responsible for that phenomenal billboard on the Turnpike. It's now been moved for years and years. In his first sentence, he does something that's really important. He always says, no matter what your question is, I'm a gun owner. And he makes the point, which I think, I am not a gun owner, but having said that, I think it cracks a mind open that needs some cracking. But
he also outed me as a gun owner, too.
You're a gun owner now?
Well, I have a rifle. I still have the same 22
From when you were a junior NRA
Yeah,
member?
what do you do with it? I mean, I could turn it in, and it just is totally separate.
Yikes.
It's in different places. I mean, I can barely get a squirrel with it.
So, by the way, I will not be coming over for dinner after all. Let's go to Craig in Fall River. You're on Boston Public Radio.
Not that I would shoot a squirrel.
Exactly. With Sue O'Connell and me, Jim Browdy. How are you? Ever seen a baby squirrel? No, neither has anybody else. Go ahead. What's up?
Hey, Jim. Hey, so, Jim, I took exception to when you said if you're off planet Earth and you don't believe there's going to be a civil war. That's a very American point of view. I have a lot of friends from Europe. My wife is from Europe.
Yep.
And the Europeans are always, in Spain and Italy, they always know that fascism can rear its ugly head in no time. Everything has a life. And I firmly believe American democracy is on a shelf, is on the end life.
So do I, actually.
Now, how you change it. So when you said if you're on planet Earth, you wouldn't believe that there's a civil war. I don't know how you can't see that we have the potential of a civil war here.
Well, shocking as this may be, I accept the criticism. I mean, I don't want any of that to happen. I guess it was a wish as opposed to. I am with you, but I think democracy is hanging by a thread. I know this is really encouraging people to tune into the show every day. It's really an upbeat way to start our 3 hours. But Craig, I am with you, and thank you for the call. If people just look, and for those who say, Jim, that's provocative, you're intending to provoke, pick an issue that you care about. I say this every day to somebody. Pick any issue that you care about deeply. Climate change, voting rights, abortion, guns. You go down the whole damn list. either the Supreme Court of the United States or the Republican Party in Congress is against where the vast majority of people are. How long can that stand?
It can't hold.
If Alito's leaked opinion becomes the actual opinion of this court in a few weeks, that in and of itself, I don't even think
look
you
at
can be anti-abortion, and if you can step back, be concerned about the direction the Supreme Court is taking in terms of long-established precedent and rights in this country.
We have the January 6th example. Listen, you had people who were upset enough about something that was not in question, who actually stormed the Capitol.
That's a good point, unfortunately. Yeah, you're
on
right.
something that was made up. They seized the Capitol, right? That happened. Imagine what happens when rights that actually are real, when real things are taken away from you,
as opposed to the
as opposed to
election.
imaginary
That's a very
things
good
are
point.
taken away from
That's
you.
a very good
And
point.
those people who seized and sieged the Capitol were normal people, right? That we looked at the data of who did that
No, I know that.
afterwards, right?
Can I just say one thing to you? How about them Celtics? Isn't that the way you break up the... By the way, that thing I was talking about that I can never remember the name of, which would allow the elimination of the Electoral College without a constitutional amendment, is called the National Popular Vote Interstate Compact. Again, as soon as enough states, doesn't have to be a majority of states, enough states that have a majority of electoral votes with them say, we will automatically give our electoral votes not to somebody who wins our state necessarily, but to somebody who wins the national direct vote, then we have direct election of a president. We will not have minority presidents again, as we've had quite a bit.
All right, let's go to Deb in Boston. Deb, welcome to Boston Public Radio.
Hey, Deb.
Hi. Hey, guys. Hey, so I know it doesn't sound like this is real, but I graduated from University of Michigan. I got my master's there.
Yep.
And my roommate also was getting her master's there. Never met a Jew before. She came from Illinois. She never met a Jew, and I'm a New York Jew. And so when I told her I was Jewish, she felt my head. And I'm like,
Oh, no.
What are you doing? And she said, don't you have horns?
No, that is not. I'm sorry. That is not true.
Listen, I'll
I'm sorry,
I'll
Jim,
back
but you
Deb
know
up
what?
on this.
It is?
You just can't make that up.
I had to go to Omaha once in the 90s. I got in the car, and the guy picked me up in a Miata. He was the coolest guy in Omaha. He said to me, wow, it must be great living in Boston. You must meet so many different types of people. I said, yes, I do. And he said, do you know any Jews? And I said, this is where we're
true.
starting.
You said Jim Browdy's a good friend of mine, actually. I believe this is what your response was. So, Deb, how often do you think about
where
that?
we're at.
How often do you think about that?
A lot, actually.
So would I.
Unfortunately, a lot, because there are still people that look at me like I have horns. So it's
Oy.
unfortunate, but this is a country. And I'm not calling about guns, which is a whole other story, but I'm calling about this is the state of the United States of America. So.
All right, Deb, thanks for that.
Okay, Deb. By the way, a huge number of people in this poll, speaking of that, believe in replacement theory, too.
Yep.
We got to take a break soon.
All right, we're going to take more of your calls and texts next. You're listening to Boston Public Radio, 89.7 GBH, live from the Boston Public Library.
Fighting in Ukraine has put a national resource in jeopardy, a storage facility for seeds, a seed bank. It safeguards the genetic material for hundreds of Ukrainian crops.
Unfortunately, only a tiny proportion of the seed samples in Ukrainian gene banks are duplicated in other places.
Ukraine's agricultural heritage at risk on the world.
This afternoon at 3, here on GBH News 89.7.
Funding for our programs comes from you and Hebrew Senior Life, a Harvard Medical School affiliate empowering seniors to reach their full potential through senior living, healthcare, aging research, and more. You can consider Hebrew Senior Life at allweareforyou.org. And Mass Cultural Council, committed to supporting a diverse, inclusive, and an anti-racist cultural sector in the Commonwealth. You can check out their grants and services at massculturalcouncil.org.
Welcome back to Boston Public Radio. I am Jim Browdy. Sue O'Connell sitting in for Marjorie. Marjorie is back on Monday. We're at the Boston Public Library. Feel free to join us. We're going to have some great music later in the day if you need to be uplifted a little bit. We are streaming at youtube.com/GBH News, and Sue and I are on a mission to depress every single person
Happy
within
Friday.
sound of our voice. And I think we missed 3 in Acton. Thank you.
Yay.
We depressed all of them, too. We appreciate your support. In any case, so someone here, can we lighten this up a little bit?
Let's go.
This person texted, says he or she has seen baby squirrels and baby rabbits. Pepper the Wonder Dog, I assume that's a person. Those found little places where they were nesting and not eating them, which is another upbeat
Thought
thing.
that was going to take a turn.
And by the way, if you want to call in, even though we're talking about the end of civilization here, where 44% of Americans and more than half of Republicans believe we're headed towards a civil war in the near future, feel free to call and tell us how great Al Horford was in the fourth quarter.
There you go.
Janet in a car, you're on Boston Public Radio. Thank you for calling. Hi.
Hi, can you hear me?
I think we can. If you said, can you hear me?
Yeah. Hi, Jim. Hi, Sue.
Hi.
Hi. Hi. Now, when I was talking to your the customer service person, I told her what I was going to say, and as soon as I hung up, I think Sue said it. So what I'm thinking is, we need to divide up the country. You know, it's a big country. We're never going to get people to agree on these topics. There's the schism, or whatever you call it, is too wide. So why don't we put all the people who love guns in one area?
Yeah.
All the anti-abortionists can be in one area.
Another area,
and then another area, and they'll all sort of be their own little countries within, like she said, the EU. But I don't know if that would be something that would promote civil war down the road.
Well, the good news is after you isolate all those people you don't like, the rest of us will be able to fit into Rhode Island. So that won't be a real test for us.
You know, Jen, the challenge with that is that people live
Thank you,
places,
Jen.
right? You know, they're already there. We're at, you know,
I don't think that's happening.
there are more Democrats in Texas than there are anywhere else, but they don't ever get to get anything because there are also more Republicans in Texas. So the challenge is, you know, you've got people living in areas that are, I'm sure someone in Massachusetts in the car right now is going, no kidding. I'm surrounded by you people. But, you know, the challenge here is the percentage numbers from a polling
Jan, thanks, by the way.
demographer point of view, that's 40% is a very high number. Most times things break down. 30% are against, 30% don't care,
And the rest,
30%
right.
care, and whatever's left over are completely not paying attention. So when you get to 40%, as we have in this survey, it's a big number.
Can I tell you, I should have said to Jen, one of my favorite lines I've heard in a long time. The person who answers the phone, by the way, is a fellow employee with us, who's a call screener, a producer, but calling him or her a customer service person made my day.
I think that's going to stick,
It may not have made their day, but...
I think I'm going to use it in the future.
When you call 877-301-8097, just tell our customer service representative what you'd like to speak about, and he or she will put you on the air. And by the way, that is our texting number 2. Where do you want to go, Sue?
Let's go to Chaffee, I think is how you say it, in Amesbury. Chaffee,
hey, Chaffee,
welcome.
how are you?
That's correct, yeah.
Welcome.
Yeah, thank you.
Sure.
What I would like to address here is the cause of the polarization and the fact that the one side is not talking. Neither side is talking to the other. They're only talking among themselves, and telling each other how terrible the other side is. That's not to say I believe in a particular side, but I'm trying to make that point. And there's practically not a single station you turn on today that attempts to do this.
Well, can I respectfully, Chaffee, disagree with you in a huge way? There is somebody who's the highest profile person in this country who's doing exactly up until last night.
Okay.
Let me finish.
Okay,
Let me finish. Until he called out Republicans last night, there has been nobody in this country who has been making a larger attempt at bipartisanship and unity than Joe Biden. Most people think it's misguided, but you surely can't say nobody's trying to do it when
the president is.
The president's trying to do it again with a blip last night, and I support the blip because they are acting in a way that ensures that more kids are going to be murdered. But
Jeffy, there are discussions that I have with people, which I understand. I talk with people who are against abortion on a regular basis, but you can have a conversation with them about, so what are you doing to decrease unplanned pregnancies? What are you doing to support people who give birth to children that they hadn't planned? What are some ways that you can decrease these things? And there isn't with gun control. That's also another reasonable conversation you can have. The challenge becomes when you have people who believe that Joe Biden didn't win the election legally, and they decided to seize the capital of the United States. And those people who are business owners, our neighbors, people we know, are, I think, the people who are now driving this divide and moving what would be a 30% to a 40%. And that's the scary part.
Jeffy, thank you, though, for your perspective. I mean, I've quoted the great Barney Frank line only about 10,000 times. A lot of those people believe life begins at conception and ends at birth. And for those who think that's too cute by half, 192 people, almost all Republicans in the House, voted against additional money going to the FDA around the baby formula
for baby
thing.
formula. Yeah,
So,
once you're born, you're on your own.
I mean, it's just, the evidence is just, sadly, it is overwhelming. Let's go to Groveland, where Sean is on the phone. Sean, welcome. Thank you for calling. Hi.
Hi.
Hey.
Jim, I took a picture with you and Marjorie.
How'd that go?
When I was at the library in March. Yeah,
you don't have a record, do you?
I have the picture.
Okay, go ahead. I was kidding. Go ahead, Sean. What's up? Nice to talk to you again.
Yeah. I'm really sometimes I'm bothered by the fact that there's just some issues in the country that aren't political in nature, but they've become politicized. And
like public health.
The one thing that I think of, exactly, yeah, the pandemic.
Yeah.
And I think the best way to find common ground with that is to just approach the anti-vaxxer or whoever it is that we're talking to and say, we're all sick of the pandemic, but we need to actually think about how do we get it to stop, and maybe just realize that, like I said, we're all sick of it and that it's affecting everyone.
Sean, the thing, I agree, you're 100% correct. The challenge, of course, I'm the challenger, I guess, today. The challenge is that we have taken our right to freedom and our individuality, and it's become toxic to everything that we do. If you compare how people in Europe view their government, they view their government as working for them. So when they get mad at their government, they look for a customer service rep. They call their elected officials, and they demand more from their government because they believe their government works for them. In America, we think the government is the enemy, and we should be able to do whatever we want because we are independent and we formed this country on our own. And I think that's toxic now, and I don't think it can sustain a free and fair democracy.
Yeah, Sean, thanks for the call. The point Sean made has been made before, but it's a really important one. That I can understand the division on abortion or guns. I don't like it, but I understand that on public health matters, when you're talking about the safety of not just yourself, but people you love and work with, it's just...
And then when you see people impacted by it, people who die who were anti-maskers or anti-vaxxers, and the damage it does to their family, and you still believe it?
Well, or CNN goes and interviews someone who has about a day left in their life on a ventilator and say, I can't believe I didn't get vaccinated. I can't believe I didn't wear a mask. I can't. By the way, we're getting back to Jan, who made my day by calling our coworker, the call screener, a customer service representative. Rebecca, who occasionally is a call screener or a customer service representative, our colleague, says she prefers to be called therapist.
Yes, that could be a whole reality show, the call screener.
Well,
wouldn't that be great?
That would be really,
that would be
really great. So we'd appreciate it when you do call 877-301. 8970. Realize you are speaking to your brand new therapist. We have time for one more quick one, and it would be you, Lisa, in Cambridge. Thank you for calling. Hi.
Hi. Thank you, and I love you all.
Thank you.
And I'm calling because people for years have said to me, we should just, let the other side secede. Just throw them out. It'll all work out, And it's easy to say that, but as scary as things are now, and we don't know if it's going to work out for any of us in so many fronts, I think people don't really, really think about what it would mean to be two separate countries with a border in this country. And what do you do if the state next to you says, okay, people who say they're gay need to go to re-education camps. Women who get raped need to marry the man who raped them, and they're
Lisa, they're coming pretty close right
Yeah, I
now,
mean,
I would
I know,
argue.
but what do you do? What do you do?
Well,
if
we
that's
don't
a
need
different
2
country?
countries. We could have 10 countries.
What do you
Or
do if it's a different country and then you have arms and you have tanks and you have 2 different military?
Lisa, can I? This is going to aggravate some
greatly to be
people
avoided.
who have called and some who listen. I don't believe the vast majority of people who raise that topic mean it literally. I think they mean it. I think, and I apologize to those who I'm offending. I think they mean we can't figure out any other solution. If we can't unite, as that caller said a minute ago, around matters of public health that affect everybody, forget the tougher issues, maybe we just can't be one. And so I hear what you're saying, but I'm hoping that people are more committed to trying to fix this, even though, frankly, I don't know what the fix is. But Lisa, thank you for your call. Do you get, people say to me, including somebody I was talking to last, I'm sure you hear all the time, I turn off the news, I can't deal with it. I always say, I find this cathartic. I mean, listening, particularly when people are calling. I love talking to our guests too, but when people are calling, even if the message is a depressing one, the fact that they get to say it and we get to, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I always think, if someone in like 30 years in the future were to drop in and take this episode of Boston Public Radio, how will we be judged about what we were talking about, right? Are we talking about things that are important, that are going to have an impact in a positive way? And talking about it, I think, does that. I mean, the other thing I do is I also point to the television series, The Handmaid's Tale, when the 2 main characters were trying to buy their coffee and their cards weren't working, and June, the narrator, says, "Oh, I guess we should have been paying attention." Had no idea what was coming. So I say that to young people all the time. When your card doesn't work at the Starbucks, it might be too late for you, so you have to pay attention and take action now.
Amen.
All right. Well, thanks to everyone who called in our Doomsday conversation. Every time I'm on with Jim, it's the end of the world. But we're positive because it's Friday and coming up.
Wait a second. Customer service associate is another really good idea.
Okay.
By the way, if you want to keep texting in ideas about what we should call our colleague, who is a call screener, we would really would lift our spirits. So feel free to do that, please. I'm sorry, Sue.
Yeah, Boston City Councilor and candidate for Suffolk County District Attorney Ricardo Arroyo joins us. You're listening to Boston Public Radio 89.7 GBH, live from the Boston Public Library.
Part of your community.
You're going to start to see a lot more ways in which GBH News opens the door to our station to make sure that this is a two-way conversation with the public. We're public media, so this makes sense that this is what we're doing. So we'll be in coffee shops, we'll be in libraries, and most importantly, if you have an idea for where you might want GBH News staff to sit down with a particular group of people, write to me.
To contact Annie Schreffler, visit gbhnews.org/contact.
Our programs are made possible thanks to you. And Comcast. Xfinity Internet is committed to bringing speeds over a gig to power your devices while fitting your needs and a range of budgets. Learn more at xfinity.com/gig. And Gloucester Stage, presenting Gloria, a new dark comedy by Pulitzer Prize winner Brandon Jacobs Jenkins. Gloria runs now through June 26th. Tickets at gloucesterstage.com.
Welcome back to Boston Public Radio. Jim Browdy and Sue O'Connell sitting in for Marjorie. Marjorie's back on Monday. We are live at the Boston Public Library. You should join the audience. We have some great things coming up, including right now, but throughout the day, music later in the day. You guys will get to call in and try to spell one of the words that are unspellable.
And we'll
from
try and
last
say
night's
them.
Spelling. I can't say them
I can't
either.
say any of
And we're
them.
streaming on youtube.com/GBH News. And of course, we have our customer service representatives waiting. Do you think this is funny as I do? I just want to
I'm
be
never
clear.
going to let it go.
We're joined now by Boston City Councilor Ricardo Arroyo. He is running against interim Suffolk County DA Kevin Hayden for the position left vacant by Rachel Rollins after she was elevated to U.S. Attorney. Councilor, it's great to see you. How are you?
Great to see you. Happy to be here.
I know this is superficial, but that's a great suit, by the way.
Thank
great
you. Thank
color.
you.
Sorry.
Trying to lighten it up.
He always looks good.
It's really good.
It's true. All right. So you're looking good. You want to look good to people while you're
On the
running
radio.
for office on the radio. you. I'm sure other people see in real life. You know, the basics. Why are you running? What makes you different from your opponent? Why should folks vote for you, Counselor?
Great questions. And so my name's Ricardo Arroyo. I'm a city councilor, but before I was a city councilor, I was a public defender in Suffolk County and in Essex County with the Committee for Public Counsel Services, where I represented hundreds of clients in both superior and district courts in both Essex and Suffolk County. And in that experience, I got to see firsthand the ways in which our criminal justice system really fails people. And the ways in which it sets them up for failure rather than success. And when they do that, it actually reduces safety and it puts us in a position where we're less likely to get the results we want. When Rachel came into office in 2017, 2018, she came in with a list that I actually helped write. And that list of do not charge charges, which were all nonviolent offenses, created a situation where now we had rebuttable presumptions on these charges. And it took a lot of folks who really just needed diversion and resources, and it gave them a pathway to stabilization, which made us a lot safer. And the Boston Globe found that it did. When she left to be the U.S. attorney, we ended up having an interim come in who took that back, took back the list of 15, but sort of signaled that there was going to be, if not necessarily a road back to the way we used to do things, certainly not as progressive and not in the direction that Rachel Rollins was doing them. And so I made a decision at that time, knowing the power that a prosecutor has to really implement these policy changes, to run and to make a difference in that way.
You know, we discussed this when you were kind enough to join me on Greater Boston a month or so ago. But even if Kevin Hayden, the interim DA in Suffolk County, hasn't formally endorsed the Rollins policies like the 15 low-level crimes where there is this rebuttable presumption there'll be some diversionary thing, operationally, how is he different from Rachel Rollins? Talking about restorative justice program, a pilot last week. He has at least told me that his practice is exactly what Rollins was on the 15 crimes. He may not be articulating it like you or the U.S. attorney are. How is he not following in her footsteps?
So I think data is really important. And so one of the things that is true is that when District Attorney Dan Conley was there, these same 15 charges were dismissed at a 60% clip. When Rachel Rollins took office and put in a policy, a written policy that was followed by ADAs, we have 9 municipal district courts, we have a juvenile court, we have an appellate court. The DA is not in those courts. The DA can visit those courts, but the day-to-day decisions and charging decisions are made by ADAs, and it requires written policy to do that. To say that I will not have that written policy, and which is what he said, that I will not ever have that written policy. I do not have a do not charge list. I will not do that. But I will look at cases on a case-by-case basis. That's what every district attorney in the history of district attorneys has said. It is taking away a policy. It's the equivalent of jumping on what you were talking about before, saying, I support the spirit of gun control, but not the written policies and the enacting of it. And so to say that you're going to do something, but if that were the case, if he was really following the spirit of that, what is the hesitation with saying this is the policy, it's the written policy, and it's what we follow? And what has been so striking to me is that that policy has been proven to work. This isn't a question about whether or not it works. It works. The Globe has reported on it. We've had several studies on it. People who were diverted were 64% less likely to have a misdemeanor charge, 74% less likely to ever come back with a felony charge. We have proven that it works. To take something that is substantively impacting public safety in that way and just say, I'm not going to do it, and have no basis for that, I think is troubling.
You know, Ricardo Arroyo, you know, I've been remiss in not bringing up with you. There was, as you know, a brilliant campaign by the ACLU, What a Difference a DA Makes, a couple of years ago, where majority of people didn't even know DAs were elected, what their function was. Why does it matter? Why should the voters of Suffolk County or other counties that are listening where you're not running, what difference does a DA make? Why should they care? Because it can change the entire path of any one individual's life. And I'll just use a story from my own experience. I had a person who was just turned 18 that week, had broken into, I'm using air quotes for people on the radio, into his high school. It was across the street from his house, and breaking into it meant opening the door and going to play basketball. And all of his friends who were 17, they all ran, they dispersed. Police caught him. And because he wouldn't give up his 17-year-olds, they charged him with charges. He was here on a green card since he'd been here since he was about 2 years old. That would have gotten him deported. It took me a year, a superintendent, a change in ADAs to actually get this kid stabilized. And in that time, he had to get a GED. He wanted to, his goal was to join the Air Force and to be a state trooper one day. We had to sort of stabilize his life. Because of what they did, he ended up getting taken out of school. He ended up having issues where he was living, because now he was home all the time. And so it was actually a challenge to keep him from doing
criminal activity, frankly, because of the way they were treating him for this minor offense. And the power to get that done took all of 5 minutes for an ADA to say, this is too much. We're asking for too much on this kid. We're going to change it. And now that kid is now in the Air Force and is a successful person who's gotten a GED, and that all changed because of the decision the ADA made. When you're dealing with charges and how you charge them, that impacts people's housing, people's hiring opportunities, the way in which we actually look at crime and whether it's reduced or not reduced. And I will just say, for the misinformation out there, under Rachel Rollins, crime went down. Crime went down on Tier 1, Tier 2. Crime went down. So that's serious crimes. And here's the other thing, the benefit of it, the thing that I care about a lot. The crimes that really disrupt communities, murders, non-fatal shootings, which we have many of. I think 1 in 7 shootings are actually fatal because we have excellent hospitals and they have terrible aim. Sex trafficking, the drug trafficking, those things, when you free up the 170 to 200 attorneys on their best day to do that, we get 20 to 25,000 cases a year in Suffolk County. If you are plumbing and clogging that up with these minor offenses where we know that the results are better with diversion, then you're causing real problems. So the long and short of it is because the decisions they make on a daily basis in each individual life can make the difference between somebody being in the Air Force and somebody being deported back to a war-torn country. And those are the kinds of decisions that matter to me.
We're talking to Ricardo Arroyo, City Councilor in Boston, who is running for Suffolk County DA.
To that point, when Rachel Rollins ran, she won and clearly had a mandate to make that change. To your point, there are statistics that show that crime has gone down while Rachel Rollins was district attorney. At the same time, just now we're experiencing at least reporting of an uptick of juveniles involved in aggressive behavior, violent behavior across the city, across the district as well. I'm wondering if you are wondering if the Boston voter now is in the same spot they were when they voted for Rachel Rollins and her agenda, even though, as you say, you have the data on your side. But there is a concern about safety, I think, here in Boston, again, even though in many places the rate is down, but in neighborhoods like mine, Roxbury, it's not. Do you think that there's going to be a pushback from voters on that policy and thereby consider not voting for you?
So I think, to be perfectly frank, that's the analysis that my opponent made when he decided that he would support it in spirit but not in written format, is this idea that policies and those policies like the 15 are soft on crime. And I think one of the things that I take really seriously is I do policy. I've sort of dedicated my life to systemic change on racial and class disparities. And when you win something, when you get something enacted, to just take it away is a big loss. And so my thing has been, I'm going to tell the truth about where the data is, why I stand for these things, where and how I believe these things impact our lives. And if the voters feel like that's not where they're at and they don't want to engage with that, then I'm fine. But I will say I think that these policies are why I've gotten the endorsements of Mayor Michelle Wu, Senator Warren, Senator Markey, a number of other elected officials in the city and the county. And so, I think there's an appetite for that, even beyond just sort of the rumor or sort of the feel of maybe people don't like this.
I hate when interviewers ask candidates about endorsements, so let's talk endorsements for a second if we can. One, when you were endorsed by Mayor Wu, as you said a minute ago, here's what a spokesperson for Kevin Hayden had to say. If Mayor Wu believes a novice attorney, that'd be you according to him, with zero public safety experience should be the top law enforcement officer in the county, that's her choice. What do you say to him?
So what I would say to that is, as a public defender, I represented hundreds of people, and that involved, one of the things I loved about that job is I got to perform a service for free. And one of the things I got to do for that was I got to take people to their rehabilitation clinics. I got to take people to their doctor appointments, which is what I've done. I got to take people and get them housing and jobs and do all of those things. If the only experience that we are seeing as public safety experience is not taking care of individuals and stabilizing their lives as a public defender, that's not public safety experience, then if the only public safety experience that anybody's judging me on, and apparently the only public safety experience my opponent sort of sees is putting somebody in jail, no, I haven't done that. But I'm going to be the district attorney, and I'm running to be the district attorney, and that's their job, is to prosecute, and I will do that as well. But I would push back on the idea that I don't know what public safety experience looks like or that I don't have any public safety experience.
One more endorsement question. You endorsed Sonia Chang Diaz, who is at the Democratic convention this weekend trying to get 15%, so she's on the primary ballot. Obviously, you chose not to endorse Maura Healey. Why?
I believe strongly in doing the most that we can do in the time that we have. And with Sonia Chang Diaz, who is not my state senator, but is in a neighboring district, I think I have one precinct I share with her. She has shown over and over again, whether it's education, whether it's, and this is what matters to me, criminal justice reform, whether it's facial recognition bans or going after qualified immunity, she has stood up on those fights as somebody who's done something similar. I recognize that the pressure of that when you're standing up to institutions, whether it's a Boston Police Union or entrenched sort of status quo, there's a fierce heat on that, and I think it takes courage to do that. And I want in my elected officials that kind of courage, and so that's.
Is that courage not existing in Moore Healey in your estimation?
I don't know that it's not existing, but there's certainly policy differences. I mean, she supported facial recognition as a state issue. I was part of. On the council passing a facial recognition ban because the data showed that black women, so specifically black women, but everybody, but specifically black women, were overly misidentified. And if you have tech that doesn't work or tech that increases racial disparity, you should not support that. So there's things like that where I think we've had very big differences in agreement on policy. But I don't think it's a lack of courage as much as a different perspective in policy.
Will you support Moore Healey if she gets the Democratic nomination?
Absolutely. Have you seen the other side? Absolutely.
All right, let's talk about Mass and Cass, the area at Massachusetts Avenue and Milnea Cass Boulevard. We've lived here a long time, and we know that the weather and the temperature sometimes generally influences what's happening. There was a bit of a victory lap taken in January when the weather was cold, and the homeless census always misses counting there because fewer people are there in January. There's been some reporting done by Tori Bedford at GBH about how successful the programs have been. Michelle Wu is working on a new plan, a warm weather plan, she's calling it, to address Mass and Cass. D.A. Hayden, who would be your opponent, is looking for an alternative route for folks who are arrested there. Daily, there are more people gathering there. What's your approach to that? What would you do both now as city councilor and as district attorney if elected?
So I've actually represented as a public defender people who call Mass and Cass home. And what I know is that criminalizing and continuing to criminalize addiction does not work. Coercive rehabilitation does not work. In fact, I've had 4 ODs, overdoses, in my time as a public defender where I've lost clients. And it's really difficult, actually, for me to discuss that. But the way that it actually occurred was they were incarcerated. They were either sectioned or they were incarcerated. And these are death sentences for some of these folks because when they come out, the usage doses are different. And so if they're using the way they were before they were essentially forced to be clean, they're more likely to overdose, and in fact, 2 times more likely, and that's why I'm opposed to Section 35s. But when we talk about this problem, we just had budget hearings. I'm on the city council. We've spent $20 million plus just on overtime from Mass and Cass, from Boston Police Department. That's just the overtime. That's not to say that there aren't, there's been stabbings there, there's been sex, there's been legitimate reasons for them to be there. But that's $20 million that can go to opening up beds, can go to opening up mental health treatment. We just don't have the capacity right now to meet that need, and that is why this problem is going to continue to fester until we actually address this as a medical crisis. My commitment to this is never criminalizing addiction. I've never seen it work.
But while that's true, and I'm, at Mass and Cass at least every other day, I give my daughter directions not to drive through there. My car's been spit on in the past month. The people who are there, living there, are often the ones who are the victims of the activity, the violence, and the criminal behavior that's happening. They're more likely to be the ones stabbed, raped, trafficked. Which is the more compelling argument to help get them on the right path to deal? I know it's all intertwined.
So it's a lot of dual diagnosis. Yeah. But what I would say is, because I understand what you're saying too, is that there are people who live in that vicinity who deserve a quality of life that they're not currently receiving, frankly. And the reality is, when we talk about not criminalizing addiction, that doesn't go for violence. We're going to continue to prosecute and do the things that we have to do there when there are violent acts or where there are sex trafficking or there's those kinds of things occurring. But when we talk about actually addressing this, the housing first is what I've always pushed for. It worked in January. That you mentioned the victory lap. It's because we stabilize folks by putting them into temporary housing without requiring them first to receive services for addiction. Because what I have found is when you stabilize the person, when they're not worried about where they're going to sleep or where they're going to eat, they are then able to engage in a real way with the rehabilitation and often the mental health treatments that are required simultaneously. And so I would like to see us continue to put resources in that. But what I know doesn't work is putting them on probation, trying to run them in and out of the court system. It's expensive in a fiscal way, and it's completely ineffective from a data way. And then it's also got a huge human cost. And so managing in a way where we're actually pushing our resources instead of to the criminalization of it to these beds and these treatment centers, and we're working more as a resource to shepherding people there rather than overseeing that, I think is the right path to take. And I think that the warm weather plan that Michelle Wu has proposed is a pretty solid one.
Councilor Arroyo, we only have a couple of minutes, and if I can talk about one of my obsessions for a minute with you. Patrick Rose pled guilty a couple of weeks ago, former cop, former president of the union, to being a serial child rapist. Allowed to stay on the job for 20 years after there was credible evidence that he had committed at least, I was going to say the first of his crimes. So I don't know it was the first, but the first where there was credible evidence. Kim Janey released virtually none of the report that was done on this, maybe 16 out of 100 pages or something. Michelle Wu told me and Marjorie 2 weeks ago she had read the report. She would not commit to releasing any more to the public, even though she was going to look into the issue. Kevin Hayden literally apologized when I asked him and said, well, he hadn't really focused on it. He hadn't read it. There's a lot of information in there that is not simply about protecting survivors, which we all support, that might tell us what went wrong that allowed this guy to be continuing his criminal crusade. What went wrong within the police department? As DA, even if you don't have formal power, where are you on this Patrick Rose file?
So I think the problem with the Patrick Rose file is that there's no way, I actually asked this during the budget hearings, there's a clip of me asking them this, how do we ensure to the public, how can we guarantee to the public right now that we do not have another officer similarly charged in that way, informally, but through that process, for any number of things right now, and it was crickets. And I think the problem, one of the things I tried to address on the City Council was I was one of the original sponsors of the Office for Police Accountability and Transparency, which just got up on the ground and fully staffed up this month. Last month, sorry, I think it was February. I don't know what month we're in anymore. It was February. And this is an issue that as the DA I take very seriously, which is police accountability. Too often we have folks like, with the protests in May, I think it was May 31st of 2020, where we had that sergeant who it turned out had been found to have had sexual interactions with somebody who had said it was a sexual assault, and they said that it happened, and then he had a 1-year suspension. He's back on the job. Those are the kinds of things where no other job would ever allow this or should allow this, and so I would look into those things very seriously. I think
including looking into urging the release of more of this redacted Patrick Rose report?
I think transparency is the best way to go about this, so I've actually pushed on this publicly. I expect and hope that we will see more. I think 13 pages came out of Kim Janey.
Yeah, 13.
I've been told that Mayor Wu is analyzing what she can present without outing victims, but I think there's a lot of things there that have nothing to do with victims. We want to know what officers knew, who knew, when they knew, and that has nothing to do with who made any sort of
We have to leave it there. Ricardo Arroyo,
Good to
Boston
see
City
you.
Councilor.
Thank you very much.
Running for
Good
Suffolk
luck.
County District Attorney. Thanks.
both.
Coming up next, Callie Crossley on the Queen. It's very exciting. And Blackbird watcher Christian Cooper. He gets a show. You're listening to Boston Public Radio 89.7 GBH.
I'm Frank Oglesby, voice of the T. The doors are opening for Smart Conversation with Jim Braude and Marjorie Egan on Boston Public Radio. Local perspective, local voices. Welcome aboard, Boston's local NPR.
Support for our programs comes from you and the Office of the Massachusetts State Treasurer. The Unclaimed Property Division is holding unclaimed funds for the citizens and businesses of the Commonwealth. You can see if you have unclaimed money at findmassmoney.com. Experiencing art requires an open mind enthusiasm, and a good dose of curiosity, not an admission fee. Discover the best of New England's local art on Open Studio with Jared Bowen, tonight at 8:30 on GBH2.
Trusted, local news. This is 89.7 WGBH, WGBH HD1 Boston, online at gbhnews.org. Boston's local NPR.
Ahead on Boston Public Radio, GBH's Callie Crossley will join us to discuss Cheryl Sandberg leaning out Facebook and the breakneck pace that determined this year's script spelling bee winner. Later, we'll ask you to be the bee contestant, so study up fast. Then it's James Beard Award chef Barbara Lynch. She'll be awarded the 2022 Druker Award tomorrow, right here at the Boston Public Library. She joins us to discuss her career, a new venture on the North Shore, and the growing number of women in the business. Then medical ethicist star Caplan will discuss the life-extending power of coffee, yes, and the first human ear transplant, get this, with the help of a 3D printer. Then it's Dorchester getting its own Porchfest. It starts tomorrow. We'll hear from the Chair of Dorchester, and we'll have performances from 3 of the 50-plus who are taking the stage on porches across the neighborhood this weekend. That's all ahead on Boston Public Radio.
Live from NPR News in Washington, I'm Lakshmi Singh. President Biden's praising the country's latest jobs report showing gains extending to another month.
The job market is the strongest it's been since just after World War II. We've got more evidence of that today.
NPR's David Gura says the Labor Department's monthly report shows the U.S. economy added 390,000 jobs, and the unemployment rate remained at 3.6% for a third straight month.
The number of jobs added exceeds what Wall Street expected, and there were gains in leisure and hospitality and transportation. May was the first month in a year the U.S. economy didn't add 400,000 jobs or more. The labor market is still tight at a time when inflation is still high and the Federal Reserve's main focus. Prices are going up at their fastest pace in decades. Wages are also rising, although not enough to keep pace with inflation. In May, average hourly earnings ticked up by 0.3% from April, and they were up 5.2% from a year before. The labor force participation rate was little changed. David Gura, NPR News, New York.
Former President Donald Trump is getting involved in the Republican primary for governor of Wisconsin. As Wisconsin Public Radio's Sean Johnson reports, Trump endorsed construction executive Tim Michels over GOP frontrunner Rebecca Kleefisch.
Trump's endorsement is a blow to Kleefisch, who served as lieutenant governor for 8 years under former Republican Governor Scott Walker. She's been laying the groundwork for her campaign for governor for years, whereas Michels entered the race in April. University of Wisconsin lacrosse political scientist Anthony Chergosky called Trump's endorsement a turning point.
I think this endorsement is really going to matter a lot, and I think Tim Michels has a pretty clear path to the nomination at this point.
Early polling showed Kleefisch leading the primary, but with the largest chunk of GOP voters undecided. Wisconsin's primary is in August. The winner will take on Democratic Governor Tony Evers in November. For NPR News, I'm Sean Johnson in Madison.
Today marks the 100th day of Russia's invasion of Ukraine. The conflict has killed thousands of people, forced millions more to flee the country, and left Ukrainian cities in ruins. NPR's Ryan Lucas reports from Kyiv.
100 days into the war, both Russia and Ukraine can claim some battlefield success. Ukraine held off Russia's initial attack on Kyiv in the early weeks of the war and ultimately repelled Russian troops from around the capital entirely. Russia has since regrouped and is focusing its efforts in eastern and southern Ukraine, where it is taking ground. Russian troops have seized a large swath of territory in the south that includes the city of Mariupol, which resisted a ferocious Russian assault for weeks before ultimately falling. In the eastern Donbass region, Russian troops are making slow gains in a grinding artillery battle, and there is no indication that the war will end anytime soon. Ryan Lucas, NPR News, Kyiv.
At last check on Wall Street, the Dow is down 286 points. This is NPR.
Good afternoon. With the latest from the GBH Newsroom, I'm Henry Santoro in Brookline. Just in time for the Massachusetts Democratic Party convention this weekend, State Treasurer Deb Goldberg has endorsed Attorney General Maura Healey for governor. Goldberg says that she and Healey have a strong working relationship that'll keep the state's economy strong and growing. Healy, meanwhile, says the two have worked together on student debt relief and bringing racial diversity and gender parity to state boards and commissions. Goldberg, meanwhile, is the first statewide office holder to endorse in the gubernatorial primaries, and she's also the only statewide elected Democrat without a primary challenge this cycle. And in celebration of its 40th anniversary, the Steven Spielberg film E.T. the Extraterrestrial will be the feature film for this year's movie night at Fenway Park. It's happening Friday, June 24th, my birthday. To ensure the best viewing on the 40 by 100-foot video board, those in attendance will be seated in the lower seating bowl as well as down the first base line. Gates will open at 6:15. The movie begins at 7:30, and concession stands will be open. Tickets are available at redsox.com/movie night, and the event is free for Red Sox season ticket holders. The film has been digitally remastered and enhanced with picture and sound for its 40th anniversary. In sports, the Red Sox out west, they kick off a 3-game series with the Athletics tonight. First pitch is at 9:40. In the forecast, cloud showers, upper 60s today. We're at 58 in Boston right now. This is GBH News.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include Angie, formerly Angie's List, dedicated to helping homeowners tackle home projects from everyday repairs to dream remodels. Reviews, pricing, and booking are at Angie.com or on the Angie app.
Welcome back to Boston Public Radio. I'm Jim Browdy. She is Sue O'Connell, sitting in for Marjorie Egan. That was for Sue, obviously. Yeah. Streaming at YouTube, we are at .com/GBH News. We're joined by GBH's Callie Crossley. Callie's the host of Under the Radar with Callie Crossley. You can catch her at Sunday nights right here on 89.7 at 6. She's also the host of Basic Black, which airs Fridays at 7:30 on GBH2. And obviously, it goes without saying, a huge, I repeat, huge Boston Celtics fan. I'm sorry. Callie, it's good to see you. Thank you so much.
So, Callie,
She's going to break down the key moments for us in a minute.
Well, I want to talk a little Celtics history with Callie, because back in 2008, as you may remember, Callie, Doc Rivers, who was the guy in charge, he used this. He used a great South African phrase, Ubuntu, to bring Ubuntu. To bring the team together. Yes. It was a great moment when they won the championship. I remember walking across the back bay during the parade.
With Callie.
Who was up on the duck boat waving next to Doc Rivers. And the city seemed unified, white, black, brown, Asian. And I wrote an editorial about it in South End News about how great it was that this showed the racial unity finally for Boston sports teams, and apparently that lasted about a minute and a half.
About a minute and a half, I would say.
Where are we now?
Well, it looks like, well, for team spirit, people are all into it now because they're winning.
Yeah.
Well, you're into the coach, though. I mean, come on.
Well, yeah. But
and why is that, Callie Crossley?
Because of Neil. I love this piece.
Most people don't know this.
Well, if people know the actress Nia Long, who is as black folk would say, black famous for sure, and one of the iconic stars of The Best Man and love song. That's not the name of the movie, but it's really it's a huge one that's just old and everybody loves it, and she's fabulous. Anyway, she's the girlfriend of this guy. I didn't care about him, but I love her.
The coach of the Celtics would be this guy, the first-year coach of the Celtics. So does that bring you any closer to this series, or not really?
Not really, but I love this piece by this guy, though, Deron Snyder, who says it brings him closer because she is. I think this is the most fabulous piece I've read about.
No, it actually is pretty good. Okay, well, let's move on since that's really moving.
No, you gotta read this piece from him. And okay, so he's writing a piece that says that he hates the Celtics, except now that Nia Long is tied to the coach. This is what he has to say. Hating on Beantown is a given for most self-respecting black folks. It's the default setting for consciousness unless you were born in that region and can't activate the manual override. The mistreatment of black athletes there is legendary, a flea market of racism. Even those who play for the home team are excused when they confuse Boston with Birmingham. Where else have you seen a flag used as a spear? But, he says, for the first time and probably the last time, I'm rooting for a Boston team.
Pum.
Yeah.
Now, something I assume we would all root for, the script spelling bee
Oh, boy.
was last night. And by the way, just to give you a heads up, at about 1:30, we will test you, the listeners. We will give you words that the champions attempted to spell last night and see if you can do any better. Here is the champion, Harini Logan, in the final spell-off to win the script spelling bee just last night.
Spielbone.
Spealbone.
Phreatophyte.
Threatophyte.
Gaidiang.
Gaydiang.
Parison.
Parison.
Exemer.
Exeimer.
Tokia.
Okay, enough of that. This essentially is, if people are saying, what's this?
Yeah.
For the first time ever, it's almost 100 years old, the spelling bee. This is this speed thing. You get 90 seconds to spell as many words you possibly can. Now, I think we have this discussion almost every year. On one hand, I totally love this in ways I can't describe. And on the other hand, it is torture. It is essentially like legally endorsed torture of young children by their parents. Is that?
It's pretty. I mean, it is tough. If anybody's seen any of the documentaries, which are fabulous about this spelling bee, what they study like crazy. They study like crazy. So the fact that she spelled 21 out of 26 correctly, going at that pace, and oh, by the way, to me, the great, wonderful story about it is that she was kicked out earlier. And then they discovered that, yes, she had defined the word correctly, so they brought her back in. So imagine the psychological.
Oh, boy.
You think you're done, you're out.
And you're angry because you knew you were right.
Or you're really, I think as a kid, you're probably really disappointed. This was her last time that she could.
Because she was going to age out,
She's
right?
going to age out. So I don't know how you bring yourself back, in a roaring fashion like she did to, not just come back, but come back strong and
Can
win.
I whine for one more minute,
Yes,
though?
go
Beyond
ahead.
the torture element, because most of these kids, even though they seem to love it, when you hear the backstory, are pretty much parent-driven.
Oh,
I
yeah.
mean,
Oh, yeah.
so 90% of the words, Sue and I, no one ever heard of except these kids. So, for example, you mentioned a minute ago, Harini Logan was temporarily eliminated from the contest because she misdefined. You now have to define words, too. Now, the word was pullulation.
Yeah.
What does that mean, Callie? You're a fairly smart soul. What does that mean?
I would have spelled pollution and been wrong.
Exactly.
So it means swarming of bees or
something like that.
Wait a minute, let me just get it.
Well, whatever.
And it turns out that was the definition they were looking for. However, it also had another meaning, so that she was correct in the second one. So to breed or produce freely, or to swarm and to teem. They wanted swarming and teeming, and she said the other thing.
That's going to be the Celtics' new slogan, I think.
Swarming and
swarming and teeming. But it has to be parent-driven. Everything has to be parent. There are so few children in the world who would say, whatever, I'm going to be a hockey star, or I'm going to be a spelling bee. I mean, obviously, our parents were not parent-driven in us becoming spelling bee champions.
Have you seen...
My mother was parent-driven on some other stuff, though, which has paid off for me.
Right.
Good. In a good way.
Yes.
But, I don't want to belabor this because I don't want to take the joy out of it, because everybody, and I love it, too, in
and
a perverse way.
$50,000.
I understand the $50,000, and it's probably $300,000 of therapy after you win the $50,000. I mean, they're doing this like hours and hours and hours and hours. Often the father testing them on the word. I mean, it's just, in any case. But we are going to test you, the listeners, a little bit later. So,
I hope you don't give them pollution.
And speaking of birds swarming, there's a guy who became nationally known when he was spending some time in Central Park not too long ago. He's about to have a show about birding on National Geographic. Who would that be, Callie Crossley?
Christian Cooper, no relation to the other Cooper woman who accused him of, attacking her when he politely asked her to leash her dog. And she refused to do it and called the police. And you all will remember this scene. And he's just standing there, and she's screaming, "He's going to attack me. I'm scared."
Which he did to protect birds, by the way.
Exactly.
That's
Part of the reason.
bird
watching.
Yes.
And also, by the way, there was a sign that said,
leash your dogs.
Leash your dog. So she was all the way wrong. And I don't know what happened, because, she lost her job, and then she came back and tried either sued him or tried to get her gig back. So I'm not sure what happened. Anyway.
Well, ultimately she got cleared because she went to some bias training, completed it, and so I think
But that was before she decided to sue.
Oh, was?
Oh,
I didn't,
yeah,
I didn't
no,
know that.
yeah.
Okay. Oh, I
Yeah,
didn't know
she
that.
was exactly
Okay.
who you thought she was.
Okay.
All right. So Christian Cooper now has a show about, animals and stuff. It's called The Extraordinary Birder, National Geographic. So,
I want to call this a happy ending, but at the same time, I'm like, here he was. He's clearly very talented, very smart, very photogenic. I mean, you might remember when this terrible thing happened. We're all like, wow, this is, and representing an unsung group of birders, that suddenly was visible. So I'm happy for him, but I'm like, what a terrible route to get there.
I know, and I didn't know that I guess I must have known this, but forgot that he wrote a graphic novel about the stories of black people killed at the hands of police. Remember, his sister was really wanted him to be angrier, and he wouldn't go there. I was on the side of his sister, but in any case, I'm sure this will be a lovely show because he's really into it.
Yeah, I think he's really talented.
He seems really talented.
So are you? I always forget. Are you? I think Sue is. Marjorie is a monarchist, essentially.
Yeah, I am too.
And you are you?
Depends on which ones.
Okay, well, Queen Elizabeth is the I'm so embarrassed that I know this, but Queen Elizabeth is the longest-serving monarch ever in the UK, a mere 70 years.
That's right. That's amazing.
Now, I have many questions for you. The first question, of course, is at what is it called? The Jubilee, the Queen's Jubilee. Okay,
the Platinum.
Prince Andrew, who counted among his friends Jeffrey Epstein, allegedly has tested positive for COVID, so cannot appear.
That's not true.
First question is, do you believe that?
No, he's not there because he's, put his hands on somebody.
Exactly. An underage woman, by the way, who has testified credibly.
And I would also add a layer to this that I think the Queen wanted him there, and I think because he's her favorite.
Yeah.
And I think
that's what everybody says.
And I think they conspired to say he's positive to tell her so that he won't be there. They can save her face, and she thinks he's not there because he's COVID positive.
But Sue, I thought they had decided a long time ago once he.
But he keeps showing up. He was
but not on the balcony. He's not in the important places.
Yeah, I think, but I think it's a cover story to keep her, feeling good about. We could go on about.
Wait a second. Can I interrupt? How do you like Callie interrupting you? Said, but not on the balcony. Are you proud that you know that?
Or, no, I don't care. I mean, I just want to see who's on the balcony.
Yeah. Well, you know who also is not on the balcony?
Yes.
Yes. Who would that be?
Meghan and Harry.
And why is that, Callie?
Because they're not official.
They're not working.
Working
they're
royalty.
Not working royalty.
But guess what? They got cheers when they came home. So everybody thought they were going to be booed. And the other people got booed.
Yeah, Boris Johnson got
booed.
Yeah,
Boris Johnson got booed. So there you go.
It is interesting, though. I've been listening to a lot of analysis of what happens next. If the Queen decides I'm all set, I can step down now. What will actually happen to the monarchy? I know what's supposed to happen, but the love of the monarchy is driven, many say, by the love of Queen Elizabeth and what a great ruler she has been. And if she's not there.
Well, it's not just her. Even though this support, I heard a poll on NPR the other morning, actually 2 or 3 days ago, about how popular she is. But to say, not surprisingly, that there's a generational divide is unbelievable.
I bet that.
People over, I'm not sure what, 30, 40, whatever it is, wildly supportive of her and pretty supportive of the monarchy as an institution. Younger people, like from 18 to maybe 35 or something. Again, not so much.
And here's the irony.
Yeah.
Harry and Meghan probably could have brought that back.
That's very
Well,
possible.
still can.
Actually.
Still can.
Yeah,
I don't think it's
what
over.
What does that
for them.
mean?
I just don't think it's over for them in terms of their relation with the royal family. I think that things will. I think once Charles becomes king, there's going to be a resetting of things, and that
because
Harry
he sinned publicly, and now he can have a little bit more empathy. Is that what you think?
Yeah, no, that, and I just think that there'll be a resetting of how they're going to do things, and that what would be a better way to show a younger generation than we have found a place for Harry and Meghan.
But the next person really lined up after him then is William.
Right.
And William is about as dull as they come.
Oh, man.
That's why they need Harry and Meghan.
Dull as
and
dirt.
so is Kate, God bless her, which I think is the right route to go.
Okay, so both of you are part
we
of the...
We could go on for another hour.
No, we're going to keep going on for a second. Both of you are part of the, I think, 78%, some high number of Brits who said they like Elizabeth. Elizabeth. I just forgot.
Yes.
I was not trying to be disrespectful. So, how did you feel? First of all, is she the richest woman in the UK? I assume she is. Right? Okay. How did you feel? I think it was like 8 or 10 years ago. This is a true story. When we learned that the whatever it's called, the queenship through her, applied for fuel assistance that is intended for low-income people in the UK, even though she's the richest person in the UK. What do you think of that?
I think it's ridiculous.
Oh, and that
Yeah.
that didn't sour you on her at all?
Well, no, I have no. I assume there's some stupid bureaucracy in the back moving in ways that she doesn't always know everything, because that doesn't make any sense.
Okay.
You know, and it doesn't also make sense that Charles has to go in his whatever his little pocket change he gets to pay for security for Harry and Meghan. That is
That's
some
crazy.
stupid.
Look at the NFL
ridiculous.
is a nonprofit.
Yeah,
too. I
there
mean,
you
so
go.
if we look at our
Right.
royalty, which is the
Good
NFL,
comparison.
compared to the British
Exactly.
monarchy, it makes sense.
Yes.
All
So
right,
there
what,
you go.
What do you want to talk about now?
Well, let's
There's
talk about
so much
Cheryl
to talk
Sandberg
about.
leaning out
Oh,
rather
wow.
than leaning in.
Yeah, wow.
She's not leaving to rave reviews from some. Is that fair? She's leaving a Facebook, Metaverse,
Right.
whatever. Yeah, she's retiring or
Yes.
moving on or something.
According to them, Metaverse is the parent company of Facebook
Right.
now. So,
Sorry.
And
Yeah.
Insta.
you know,
All
I watched. I was one of the millions that watched the 2010 TED Talk. Did you watch that TED Talk? And it was very impressive.
her.
By her.
Yeah,
And then when she wrote the book, and then I realized
in.
again that she had left out. You know, she wasn't like getting that all these other people, like women of color, and people didn't have all the privileges she had to lean in. As one woman said in one of these pieces, we weren't even in the room to lean in. You know, so that's crazy. Now, at that point, she said, I want to expand my vision a little bit more for Lean In, and she started partnering with various people. Do not know if that kept up. Do not know if that's what she's going to do on the other side. I will say, after her husband tragically died, and she wrote this amazing book about death and, you know, just the release of that and coping, you know, that was. So I guess I liked her more for stuff that it really actually had nothing to do with the company.
Yeah,
because I think she was sullied by the company. Actually,
Yeah. Well, I mean, you know, you get into a company that, you know, I think we'll look back on and think, you know, to our earlier conversations, basically ruining democracy around the world.
Exactly.
And what did she do to fight that? I mean, she did, from a business model, she was able to really find a way to finance it through ads, which they had not been doing before. She brought a real traditional business sense to Facebook, which helped it to do what it did. But, you know, when you're at the helm of a ship that's dividing the country and the world, is that where you want to be? I mean, I remember when Lean In came out, is just about the time that my kids started having health problems. And I remember thinking, well, I've been leaning in for a long time and thought, too, that just by me showing up, by me being able to get in there, to be an open lesbian, to be in these places, it will change, right? My
There'll be
presence
more.
alone will open it up. And just at that moment, I realized when her book came out that, no, we need more than just showing up and working hard to get there and doing what we do. But our presence alone is not going to change the institutions. And it took her a while to get there, I think.
Yeah. I don't, and it's not clear to a lot of people that she's there. So
good point.
'Cause she's still on the board, and that's fine. But she has an incredible amount of money to do whatever the hell she wants to do with. So this is her moment to really make Lean In be something.
Good point.
And she has nothing to lose at all, because everybody will want her to be on their boards from now on.
And how much is she held responsible for Facebook's contribution to the demise of democracy?
Yes,
Yeah.
because
She
she's
is,
sitting right there next to
Okay,
her.
good.
Plus, people
Okay.
thought she was
Except
going to
Mr.
fix
Arrogant.
it. There was optimism that she was going to get in
Okay,
there and fix
good.
it, and no.
So speaking of leavings, one more quick leaving we should mention, because the guy was almost running for president a few years ago. Here was the omnipresent Michael Avenatti on CNN in 2018 talking about the guy he was talking about running against. That'd be former President Trump.
Well, this is a very curious existence that the president has carved out for himself. I mean, this is an absolute make-believe world. You know, truth is not truth, and crimes are not crimes. The president is living a fallacy, and sooner or later this is going to come crumbling down around him, this criminal enterprise that he's been at the center of. There's little question in my mind that that's going to happen.
Boy, that hurts.
To me, happened to me. Ooh, I said it out loud.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
he's going to jail for 4+ years for stealing money from his client, Stormy Daniels.
That's amazing.
And he's also been sentenced to at least a couple of years for extorting money from Nike. Was that what
it was
he had
kind
done?
of it's a complicated kind of scheme, but yes, basically blackmailing them to give him money for something else.
You know, and the reason I wanted to bring it up, I know a lot of people a handful of people I spoke to in the last 24 hours who are experiencing great joy from this. And Are you? I mean, I don't.
No, I am just so, I should not be shocked by these things. But it's just so disgusting, he was
His behavior.
His behavior
Yeah.
was, he's out there. And then it sounds kind of crazy that, what you're disgusted by. I mean, it's any client. He shouldn't have been ripping off anybody, but this is a pornography queen. But, but whatever. I mean, he had an opportunity working with her, as he said he originally intended. By the way, he has said, I own the conduct that I was
during his
convicted of.
sentencing, what the hell is he going to say?
Well, he didn't have to say anything.
Yeah.
I have to
actually,
say, when I met him and interviewed him.
You did? I didn't know this.
When he, God, I don't know if he was running for president. I can't remember exactly what he was doing, but he came through town, and I was so impressed with him. And I thought to myself, we had what I thought, I'm sure it was, a candid conversation about what his mother thought about him saying he was going to run for office. And I thought, wow, this guy's got a future. And
As a felon.
But it really was shocking to me how wrong I
Right,
was.
I know. And don't you remember the early days when, he wasn't everywhere, but people didn't know him, we're just getting to know him. He seemed fearless.
Yeah.
I mean, he was one of the few voices talking back to somebody who was pretty
Yeah,
powerful.
that's a good point.
And saying some stuff that the guy didn't want to hear. So
But
that
man,
was,
it takes some chutzpah to have all that stuff in your closet and be out there that high. Like, talk about the tall
Crimes
nail
of
getting
others,
hammered
yeah.
down. I mean, that is.
Well, you know what? That is the essence of the hoax. What's the guy that pretended to be everybody and everybody believed him? I can't think of his name right now.
Which one?
The one that is historic. God, right.
Clifford Irving was
one of those
when he
big
was
ones that-
allegedly
and-
interviewing Howard Hughes. Oh, the
How-
guy.
yes,
the
yes.
guy who interviewed
Howard Hughes.
says he
Yes,
interviewed
yes.
Howard Hughes,
Yeah.
but didn't.
Yes, yes.
It's just amazing.
When they did the movie about his life,
Yeah.
there's a scene in it where they have essentially figured out he's lying. They've caught him, the publishing company, and he had a meeting with them. So he goes to apparently this is true. He goes to the meeting knowing that they know. I mean, you talk about some chutzpah.
It's called pathological, I believe, is the term.
I mean, it's
we
just
use.
like, what the hell?
Hey, so before you go, food is one of your areas of
Oh,
great
yes,
expertise.
yes.
What exactly is a dirty
I'm so excited.
Shirley? Not who is a dirty Shirley. What is a dirty Shirley? Please, Callie Crossley.
Well, many people grew up. This is part of the whole nostalgic, feeling about foods now. So
Yes.
there's a lot of return to nostalgia about foods that were around for a long time ago. Anyway, Shirley Temples were a thing for kids. The parents were drinking the cocktails, and they'd order a Shirley Temple. It was all very sweet, a lot of grenadine in it, kind of a pink-red color, a little Sprite in it, nothing. Well, it's now turned on its head in its 2022 version. The Dirty Shirley has liquor in it, Jim.
Vodka. Is that right? Is
Yes.
it vodka?
Well,
Yes.
Callie, I beg to say that I believe my mother invented the dirty
Oh,
Shirley
wow.
in 1967 when she would get me a Shirley Temple and then take the cherries from her Manhattan, of which she would order more, and
put it
them
in your
my
Shirley
drink.
Temple?
Oh, my God.
That's not true.
I swear to God.
How old were you?
I was 9, 10, 11, 12.
Oh, my
Right.
God.
Down in Mashpee when we go on vacation. Both parents
beautiful.
would get Manhattans. I get extra
Oh, my
cherries.
God.
I would order a Shirley Temple, and they would drop them in there. And I went to bed really early during those vacations. I don't know how that happened.
You think
Remember
were
when she brought you that
knocked
12-pack of nips for your 10th birthday? That was so moving.
God.
So what are you doing Sunday night on that show of yours, Callie Crossley?
We have our full hour of summer reading special, which I love.
great. I love
our,
that, too.
Our 3 librarians, including Veronica Coven-Mattisey, who's a Reader Services librarian at the Boston Public Library, and our other 2 librarians, Robin Brenner from Brookline and Susan Boristan-Tukach from Cambridge Public Library. All kinds of fabulous recommendations. I put my list up, or all of our lists will go up when the broadcast happens on Sunday.
Great.
The headline is, nobody wants to read anything serious. Nobody.
Okay.
Even the librarians.
surprised
They're
by
like
that?
out. Well, I said, librarians, aren't you supposed to be trying to make me do it? And they were like, no.
Nope.
We're in the fence.
Take the summer off.
yeah.
All right,
That's
Callie
great. It's a great
Crossley.
show. Callie, it's great to see you.
Great to see you,
Go
Callie.
Celtics, right, Callie?
Go
Oh,
Celtics.
yeah,
Whoever
right.
they are, exactly.
Go Neil Long.
Kelly is the host of Under the Radar with Callie Crossley, which you can catch on Sunday nights right here at 89.7 at 6 o'clock. Also the host of Basic Black, Fridays at 7:30 on GBH2 or on the GBH YouTube channel. Coming up, James Beard award-winning chef Barbara Lynch, and the owner of restaurants like Number 9 Park, is set to win the prestigious Druker Award this weekend right here at the Boston Public Library. She's going to join us after a short break, so stick around. You're listening to Boston Public Radio on 89.7 GBH.
You can find a bit of everything on Angel Olsen's new album. A breakup, a new love, the death of her parents, and a heavy dose of self-reflection.
I wanted to change the way I thought about my life. I want to practice the truths that I feel instead of just talking about it.
That conversation this afternoon on All Things Considered from NPR News.
Today at 4, here on GBH News 89.7.
Support for GBH comes from you and Ocean State Job Lot, partnering with customers to help animal welfare organizations throughout the Northeast. Learn more at oceanstatejoblot.com. That's oceanstatejoblot.com. And North Shore Music Theater. Broadway's rock and roll musical review, Smokey Joe's Cafe, is on stage at Bill Haney's North Shore Music Theater, June 7th through 19th. More at nsmt.org.
Welcome back to Boston Public Radio. Jim Browdy, Sue O'Connell sitting in for Marjorie. Marjorie's back Monday. We are at the Boston Public Library, and there's going to be live music here in about a half hour, so if you're in the neighborhood, I'd check it out. And we are streaming at youtube.com/GBH News. And as Sue said, we're joined by James Beard Award-winning chef and restaurateur Barbara Lynch. Barbara obviously is the brains behind restaurants like Number 9 Park, Monton, Sportello, many others. The author of an incredible memoir, Out of Line, A Life of Playing with Fire. And in 2017, she was one of Time Magazine's 100 most influential people. I don't want to sound surprised. In any case, tomorrow she'll be receiving, I didn't mean that. I mean, that's a big deal, Barbara. It is. She'll be receiving
I was surprised. I mean, really
You were?
shocked, of course.
Well, in that case, it was the real deal. She'll be receiving the Druker Award here at the Boston Public Library. It's an honor presented annually to a speaker or speakers who've made outstanding and important contributions to the world of design. And as was explained to me this morning by David Leonard, who will interview her tomorrow, the head of the library, it's for obviously great culinary design. Barbara Lynch, it's great to see you. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Very well. It's really
My
good
God,
to see
thanks
you.
for having me.
We're thrilled to have you.
You know, since we're talking about
I haven't been to Boston. Well, I have, but
I was
like,
going to say. Yeah.
Well, not like.
Well, wait a second. What do you mean you haven't been to Boston?
Well, like literally, like I've been to Boston, but like I haven't seen you in a long time.
Oh,
no, I know. This,
since
since
I
the
gave
book,
you coffee,
actually.
actually.
By the way, that
The coffee good, right?
That coffee was
Vermont.
unbelievable. It was only 5 years ago too, so thanks for the refill. I really appreciate it. It's
Yeah,
great.
thanks for having me on again.
We're talking about this design award, right? So tell us about what goes into designing a meal, right? So my daughter is so bougie, right?
Bougie?
She is so bougie.
What's that mean, bougie?
Bourgeois.
How
Right?
old-
So
how old?
she's 21. She came this way. I don't know what happened. It's
She
not,
came
she's
this
adopted,
way.
so it's obviously not a genetic thing from me. But she will before not just the Instagram photo stuff,
Yeah.
but she really looks at how something is plated, well, how the portions are done. She's really appreciative of those things, which I have never paid attention to, but you obviously do, right? Is this what the design of making meals is all about as well as the recipe and the foods that go into it? Yes.
Well, okay, for sure. But you stick to a vision that you have. Like, so memories for me were really key. Like my first time in Italy, like in Piedmont, right? Actually, Tuscany, sorry. That's a really good question. It just starts from the head. It starts from a memory. I see a building. I'm like, oh, my God. That would be the perfect, like, bomb shelter, which is a bar. But I'm just saying, giving you, like, an idea. But the butcher shop came from my first trip to Italy out of South Boston. I mean, I borrowed friends' credit cards, and then I ended up in jail almost because I had no cash left. And I used my friend's credit card, and no go. I had to call my high school teacher, by the way, to get me home. Anyway, that's a whole thing, right? So that's about a 10-year thought. I'm going to open a butcher shop. What is, like, Boston missing? Why? We need oysters. We need an oyster bar on every corner. I mean, we need this neighborhood. We do need food. And I know, I just know what I love, and I know what the city missed or is missing. And that's how I did it. And then the food is just memories and taste. I literally can't even read a recipe.
Are you excited about getting this thing tomorrow? You should be. Are you?
I think so.
When are you going to decide?
Right now.
And the decision
I'm nervous. I'm so nervous. My daughter is like, oh my God, she's graduating high school tonight too, so I have to be in and out.
But she doesn't have to you're not giving a speech. David Leonard is going to interview you, which is an easier path, right?
Yeah.
You are excited. You really are.
I am.
That's legit kind of thing? I'm guessing.
I had to like literally meditate on not swearing.
Is that true?
Yes.
By the way, this is the longest you've ever been on the show. You brought it up, not me, without dropping about a dozen F-bombs. So I want to thank you for that, even though John Parker is ready back. And, so you're getting a library award tomorrow. I'm guessing, I read every page of that memoir of yours, which is so painfully honest that it is, and even though it came out a few years ago, I would really recommend it. I think it is just brilliant and transparent.
I'm starting another one, number 2.
You are? What phase of your life is that about?
Gloucester.
Oh.
Dead guy in my driveway like the first month.
Excuse me?
I swear to God.
How'd that happen?
Were
you responsible for it or no?
No, I asked. No.
What happened?
He ran out of oxygen and, stuff like that. It's a long story, so it's a really good story, and it connects our worlds.
And it's going to be in the new book.
Yeah.
I wasn't going to get to this yet, but speaking of Gloucester, you're going to do a new restaurant in Gloucester, right?
Yeah.
That's your first non-Boston deal?
It's my first non-Boston deal.
And what's up with that? I mean, I know you live there, but what's the deal?
Well, I guess I'm the last of 7 kids, and I'm the only one that went north, and everybody else went south, kind of thing. And I am almost 60, so looking at the other side. And I think I want my legacy there. I think I want it there because I think I can afford to bring back, like, the Barbara Lynch Foundation. And that's when you really want to talk to me, it's about education, all about education.
Well, let's talk about education.
Well, it's my turn to give back. And I am excited about the library, I have to tell you, because I have a lot of.
Now that would have been semi-okay, not great, but okay, yeah.
All right, no, I have over 3,000 to 10,000 cookbooks that I'm going to actually donate to Winchester High, some of them, and Gloucester High, and start a podcast. So, with this new move, it's like. I'm not giving up on Boston, but I think we're going to connect bigger and better, and also have an opportunity to teach in Gloucester. That it's not just fish and, clamming, and it is about innovation. It's about mapping. It's about knowing the waters. It's about keeping the next generation there. And don't get me wrong, I heard this high school is an incredible high school in Gloucester, so I'm dying to, go and dive in.
Do you ever step back and think about how, I mean, if you were to say to me, who are the premier, and I'm a consumer, not in the business, who are the premier 20 chefs, restaurateurs in Boston, I would bet 18 of the people I'd list to be women. When you broke onto the scene, it was about you. I mean, it was you and how many other women were doing anything?
Well, it's Lydia. Lydia's the queen bee.
Yeah.
She's she's my partner in
So
crime.
do you step back at any point and take time to reflect upon what's happened in these 20 plus years, or are you moving too fast?
No, I'm definitely reflecting, especially in the last 2.5 years, 3 years. I just was suicidal. Like, how do you recreate yourself? I can't. And then you go through this process and gain shit tons of weight. I was like, ugh. But you get to the point where, at this point, you go back to what you know and you refine it. So I honed my craft. I went back into the kitchen, and I learned so much more after. I mean, honestly, I'm 18 years old in the South End. Number 9 is 26 years old.
Wow.
Who has a friggin' restaurant?
Wow. 20.
Sorry.
No, that's good. That one's
That was a good
acceptable.
one. We gotta have that one.
So how did that feel, going back and sort of to your roots kind of deal? What did that feel like?
I was scared, but it was great to cleanse a kitchen that I haven't been in. It was awesome to see what works and certainly what doesn't work. In the front of the house, it was nice to be able to tackle payroll, on the spot. And to see things that are working and to see things that are clearly not. And it was a lot of luggage to carry during this time when you have no idea if you're going to open again and takeout. Like, who the hell? Oh, it's a nightmare. It was a nightmare.
Yeah, people don't understand how difficult takeout was for many restaurants to pivot to, and at the beginning of the pandemic, I'd talk to people and they'd go, well, why? They're not doing takeout. Isn't that a lifeline? I'm like, can you just talk about a couple of, because I know some restaurants still aren't doing takeout and aren't going to do takeout.
You can't. I mean, you
besides
either do
besides
takeout.
how the food is, besides what your intent of how you're going to deliver it is, but there's a million items that you need in order to do that.
No, it's not hard to do. It's just you can't do both. So either or, you make a choice, right? So in New York City, there's like the guys from 11 Madison opened up a amazing takeout. It's actually really brilliant. It's almost like he's using every ingredient from 11 Madison and putting on it to take home, like salmon, rice, asparagus. But it actually has heart and soul in it, and you can taste it. So there is a really weird, and I don't know, I try to call in, but can I have your number? Like
No, I'm sorry. Actually, you can't. When I get the coffee, you can't. By the way, 11 Madison is now meat-free, is it not?
Probably.
And, you know, speaking of 11 Madison, which has absolutely nothing to do with what I intended to bring up, but we were talking to Corby Kummer or somebody about it recently, and he was saying best restaurant in America, one of the best restaurants. What is it, $350 prefix or $400? Are you okay with that?
No
You're
more.
shaking your head. This is radio.
Oh, sorry. I'm not. No, I think, I mean, listen, I can't knock it. Monton is expensive
I
as
know it
well, but you do have options, right? I think with my next venture, I'm really excited about it because
That
I
being
have-
Gloucester we're talking about?
at the Rudder. Do you
Yeah,
know
it's
where the
Rudder, yeah.
is? In Rocky Neck.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm calling it the necklace, you know. And
We got it.
I have big shoes to fill, like this woman, Evie Parsons, owned it, and 50 years. And so it's my first venture out of Boston, my first venture in 18 years, which I have journals of like my dreams, goals, and aspirations. And when you're just caught up, and my nephew started working for me now.
Your nephew's right here.
Yeah,
Hey there, nephew. How are you? It's nice to see you.
Oh my God, how many? He cleaned out like 27,000 emails.
Wow.
How was
Yeah.
that? Was that good?
It was
Yeah, I'm
good.
sure it was.
Can you come
Did
and
you
take
read
my
the one
phone?
where I
Can
asked
you
her
take
for
this?
more coffee or not? You erased that one.
Can you get my
When
phone?
is this thing opening?
We don't know. I mean, I
You
need,
do know, but you're not going to say, right?
Well, it's very close. I've been cooking in there, but I really don't even know how to measure and shit. So I'm really hit a.
And
I
stuff.
hit a
We say
spot.
and stuff on the radio.
Oh, and
Measure
stuff.
and stuff on
And
the
stuff.
radio. Thank you.
But like, no, I need some kitchen equipment and stuff like
Stuff,
that.
good. We're talking to Barbara Lynch, who is receiving the pretty big deal Druker Award here tomorrow at the Boston Public Library.
Are you feeling optimistic? You know, we are where we are right now, pandemic-wise. This is what it's going to be, I think. I'm not an epidemiologist, but I think, you know, we're all making choices for our own safety. Restaurants, you know, we were in the South End last weekend. It was every restaurant was busy, it seemed. Are you feeling industry-wise that, you know, you've been through hell, now you can move forward and make some plans and make some predictions and get business back to where, or to somewhere new?
You know, it's a great question, overwhelming in so many ways because it's a bigger problem than you think. There's independent restaurateurs and there's commercial restaurateurs. The rents are outrageous. You know, you're talking brick and mortar and everybody's working, like, is the city going to come back? Who knows? I don't worry about that, but I'm finding this as my silver lining in so many ways to, I created a food product when I had plum produce. It's called Made, and it's actually one of the healthiest food products you will ever see. It's all vegetables. It's dehydrated. But at the time when my company and I was busy, it just fell apart. So I feel like, oh, well, God, I did that 15 years ago. Created that 15 years ago. I have you know, I have everything. But it's the timing, and people need healthy food and at a cost that is really like $11, and it could feed a family of 4. Now that's number one, but like that's one process. Then the school problems, everything. I feel like there's a lot to be said or a lot to do, and I think I want to start a podcast too. So
We're talking to restaurant legend here, Barbara Lynch, who's getting a big award tomorrow from the library. You know what I was thinking? I was just looking at you. I hope I got this right, because I obviously haven't seen the book in 5 years. Did you not go door to door as a kid? I think I got it.
Hojo's.
Right. Say you were collecting money for a band, which you were, of course, not, and you spent the money to buy, I think, fried clams at Howard Johnson's. Is that right?
Yes.
That's
And I
pretty good
heard
band.
they're closing.
That's what I said. How do you feel?
I thought of that today.
Just yet, I think it was
today.
yesterday or
Yeah.
today. How do you feel about that? For those who don't know, the final Howard Johnson's of them all is gone. How do you feel about that?
Devastated. First of all, Jacques Pepin created it. Do you know that?
No. Are you kidding me?
No, there were those big mud clams, like huge.
Yeah.
And I couldn't believe, because we were sitting there having lunch at Butcher Shop, and I was like, no. I told him my whole Joe story. I put like craft paper around Schlitz cans. My I had my 7 to 9 friends, and then we went door to door in the projects, and it's like for Old Harbor Band uniforms. Oh my God, I had some fucking cans. They were
No, we don't say that, Barbara.
I'm sorry.
We don't.
And
it's
then,
okay,
and
thank
then
you.
some a woman, a neighbor called and said, "Oh, hi, Barbara. I didn't know your little Barbara was like in a band." Oh my God. I had to return all my money.
Oh.
I was crying though because I was only like 6, and I was like, Diane Bennett's gonna eat all the fried clips.
Can I
and
tell you
Hojos."
something? I actually have food. Do you have food memory?
Oh yeah.
Okay, I have food memory, and I remember from my kiddom. Well, 2 things I remember. You probably you ever hear of Horn and Hearted, or is that not
No.
the Automat? You never did?
No, the one in New York. Yeah, we
There's
didn't
a
have
great
one.
new movie out, and I can't think of the woman's name. I had her on TV a few weeks ago. A documentary, essentially starring Mel Brooks.
Mel Brooks is in it. Yeah.
About the Automat that
I
was in
love
my
Automat,
hometown of Philadelphia and New York. It was called Horn and Heart at the Automat. That was my favorite place. My second favorite place was Horn and Heart at Howard Johnson's as a kid for hot dogs, which I loved. But the fried clams, and I worry that I have revisionist memory because I was a kid and loved it. I thought they were unbelievably
Well, they
great.
were, and you know what he did? So these mud clams are huge, like grossly huge. But he put them through like a scally bread slicer, and that's where you got the bellies. You could have the bellies or the strips.
Or the strips.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the way he fried them, and I mean, Jacques like brilliant.
Yeah.
But
And he doesn't
okay,
waste.
so
He
here's
doesn't waste anything, that man.
No. So here's the thing. Here's the opportunity for any. Like I want to be there now for this next generation to come up. Who's going to open 10 years and 10 restaurants in 8 years? It's cuckoo. But like a possibility of taking over Hojo's and reinventing it is not a bad idea.
That is brilliant.
Plus, as kids, oh my God, there were like a lot of us. That we used to sneak into the pool.
At the hotels, yeah.
Because it was right at Dorchester.
Yep. You know what my memory of Hojo's is?
No.
Being on a road trip with my parents, and they had a little figurine gift shop at the front.
I remember-
they
I
had the
actually
little tiny
remember that,
ones.
sure.
So I always got to buy one, and then my dad would take me to get the ice cream, and I'd look at all the ice creams, and I remember I couldn't read, and he said, "What do you want?" And I said, "Vanilla."
Oh.
It's
And
rather
my dad
sad,
would just
isn't
be
it?
like,
I'm a
"Oh."
vanilla Brigham's girl. I worked at Brigham's and I was.
I
a
worked at
packer.
Friendly's.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah.
Did you pack ice cream too?
I was a waitress, and I was fired the month I was employee of the month.
What
I
did
was
you
never
do?
fired, and I should have been because
That's
I was
okay.
like,
Apparently, you should have.
I should. I mean, the management didn't show up. Cash
Why
for
were
me,
you
cash
doing
for
a fraud
myself.
like the band money,
Well,
or
kind
what
of.
were you doing?
He's actually. I was in high school, and I took the job. It was Friendly's on Squire Road in Revere. I took the job when I was in the summertime, and then by the time we got to November, I was class president. I was playing basketball. I said,
Oh.
I can only work 1 day a week. He said, you lied to me on your application. Then I said, listen, I'm in high school.
Right.
I got things to do. He said, then go be in high school. And I
Wow.
was employee of the month for
Very
selling
s-
more nuts.
That's when I said when they were trying to make me go to summer
Careful.
school.
Yeah.
I was I have way too many things to do. But
I'm busy.
Listen,
So, Barbara Lynch, before you go, can we stay on this Howard Johnson's thing for a minute? Was that a flip comment that somebody should reinvent and bring back?
no, it's
That's
not
a brilliant idea.
It's not a.
So
thank
why don't you do that?
Well, that's my mission.
What does
I
that
want to
mean?
teach people entrepreneurship in
want
this
somebody to do
business.
it, yeah.
Because take the word out of like fast food and change it. Like, why do we have to have like McDonald's, every like Subway from here to New York City, and we can't have like a freaking B&G oysters? It's like we have to stick together. We have to decide on how is this independent restaurant industry going to grow. Number one, we should be paying off their student loans as a group, so that if they're working here for 2 years, 3 years, let's pay your loans off. You know,
Investing in the people
investing
who are
in
going
the
to take
people
over.
who are working.
Yeah.
You know, can I tell you
Because
something?
there's like pretty soon, not everything is going to be. Not that everything is robotic. You know, yeah.
You know what? I realize I am the least entrepreneurial person, but as you're speaking, you're inspiring me. You know what we could do? We could send out like hundreds of kids to people's doors saying they're raising money for the band, and they can use the money to invest in this startup thing.
It's the same thing. I mean, honestly, I'm going. I swear, I think it's because I'm 58, making those changes. Like all of this, it feels like you're going to be coming full circle, and it is almost like, holy crap! I made a lot of money as a kid, and God knows why. I mean, not selling drugs or anything. Totally innocent.
Well, not totally,
not
innocent,
totally.
not really totally innocent. But so, Barbara Lynch, before you go, the name of the new restaurant in Gloucester to open up soon is
The Rudder.
The Rudder. And you're winning the Druker Award, being given tomorrow.
Yeah.
You want to say something great so the head of the library feels really good about you?
God, I'm so happy to be. Well, I love libraries, and I'm really excited just to talk about
Should be.
friggin' food and design and the world. I mean, really, first of all, I'm honored and I'm
You should be. It's
super
great.
shy, you know. And but it's our city, and I'm super excited.
We're
So
super excited you're
great.
getting
And
it.
that's how I learned. I'm a self-educator. I'm self-taught
We know
by
that.
books, so I'm really honored.
Barbara Lynch, it is a joy to see you, and congratulations on tomorrow. It is great, and hope you're well.
Oh my
Take
God,
care.
thank you.
Thank
Awesome.
you.
Barbara Lynch will get the Druker Award here at the BPL, which is going to be followed by a conversation with Boston Public Library President David Leonard. You can get tickets to the award and lecture at bpl.org/events. After a quick break, scientists have successfully transplanted a 3D printed ear. We're going to get the full story from medical ethicist Art Caplan after a short break. Don't go away. You're listening to Boston Public Radio 89.7 GBH.
From the GBH Newsroom, a new series, Priced Out, the fight for housing in Massachusetts.
Across the region and in every direction, homes in working-class neighborhoods are increasingly out of reach.
The increasing cost of housing and the people caught in the squeeze.
Our homes are everything. Our homes are our foundation. When somebody is unstable in their homes, everything is unstable.
Coming soon on GBH 89.7 and at gbhnews.org.
Funding for our programs comes from you and 30 Tigers, presenting Dark Enough to See the Stars, the new album from Grammy-nominated singer-songwriter Mary Gauthier. The album is available at your local record store now. And Skylark Vocal Ensemble, presenting a masterwork of a cappella music, Rachmaninoff Vespers, tonight, tomorrow, and Sunday in Sandwich, Newburyport, and Cambridge. Tickets at skylarkensemble.org.
Trusted. Local news. This is 89.7 WGBH, WGBH HD1 Boston, online at gbhnews.org. Boston's local NPR.
Welcome back to Boston Public Radio. We're live at the Boston Public Library. I'm Jim Browdy. Sue O'Connell sitting in for Marjorie. We're streaming at youtube.com/GBH News, but I would get down here in the next 20 minutes because 20 minutes from now, 3 of the great performers from Dorchfest, happening in Dorchester tomorrow, are going to be joining us and playing for you. But joining us now via Zoom is medical ethicist Art Caplan. Art is the Doctors William F. and Virginia Connolly Mitty Professor and founding head of the Division of Medical Ethics at NYU School of Medicine in New York City. Art Caplan, good to see you.
Hey, what do you mean get down there in 20 minutes? They should be getting down there now.
Very fine
Good
point. By the way, Sue O'Connell, have you two met before?
I don't think I've.
No.
Sue
it's our
O'Connell,
first
Art
time.
Caplan.
Hey, Art, I'm a big
No.
fan. Long time, first time.
Long time first time.
Hey, Art, I want to jump in and talk about this tweet that you did the other day on June 2nd regarding the shooter. And it's interesting because I'm of the belief that people who commit violent crimes are in distress of some point, of some type. Mental distress. It does not mean that all people who have mental illness are violent, but there's got to be something going on. And you tweeted, mass murder and mental illness, if using a weapon to blow apart the heads and bodies of young children and teachers beyond recognition does not justify a diagnosis of mental illness, then psychiatry, psychology need to rethink. Can you elaborate on that? And are you also walking, I know you followed up with a tweet saying, obviously, having a mental health diagnosis does not make you more likely to be violent, but can you elaborate a bit on that, please?
Sure. There's a confusion going on out there. People are invoking mental illness as the reason for these mass slayings, and they do it often as a way to divert from easy gun availability of automatic weapons. I think it's true that if you can go in a classroom and shoot up children, you are suffering from a mental illness. What could be more evidence than being able to do such a thing? At the same time, we have to understand that just because you have a diagnosis of a particular mental illness doesn't mean you're more at risk of violence. So what I was trying to say is, first, we need to acknowledge that there are people out there prone to horrible violence who must be mentally ill. Maybe they're fueled by weird ideology and politics and the internet and all the rest of it. But we need to decide, are we going to do some screening to identify those people before they act? And I mean some mental health screening in our schools, in our society, that would be preventative. People seem to want to resist that. I don't, because I think it's part of the way forward in detecting who might commit horrible crimes. At the same time, I'm not trying to stigmatize anyone with a mental illness. I know that there are many, many diagnoses of mental illness where you're not going to engage in violence or harm. Some of them, like agoraphobia, can barely get out of the house. So you're not going to risk anything to anybody. But in the effort to protect stigma, bias, and phony excuses from the debate about mental illness, I don't think we should deny that somebody who does what happened, in Texas, or what happened where I am in Connecticut at Sandy Hook, boy, you've got to be mentally ill to do that.
But Art Caplan, the answer to your question that you asked a minute ago, are we going to do it? The answer, of course, we're not going to do it, because it's virtually the only thing that people on both sides even pretend to agree upon, that we should address the mental illness question. And so why don't we? I mean,
well, by the way, you got to love Governor Abbott in Texas, who keeps saying it's mental illness, and then chops $200 million out of the budget 3 months before the attack to support mental illness. So part of it is just nonsense. I mean, part of it is just rhetoric.
Of course.
Anything to divert from guns, the Jewish space laser did it.
Yeah, exactly.
The Tides did it. Something did it. Can't be guns. I get that. But at the same time, it's pointing toward an issue. Do we need to do more surveillance to detect violent tendencies, antisocial tendencies? And, I say yes, but there are a lot of people say, I don't want my kid evaluated for mental health regularly in high school. You could do his vision, you can do her hearing, but don't do mental health.
Let me just say, before we leave this, I'm so glad that in the same sentence, without even taking a breath, you talked about do that, but don't stigmatize. And I mean, I guess that goes without saying that that's an important part of the message.
By the way, one other line on this. Even if we did detect people who were certain were going to be huge dangers of violent acts, it would be nice to have a healthcare system that had some mental health to offer them, some treatment, which we don't have either.
So can we move to a subject where I'm not even sure you'll know the answer to this question, but it needs answering. This is the baby formula shortage thing. Here is Joe Biden, this is on Wednesday, claiming he did not become aware of the baby formula shortage until 2 months after industry leaders knew they faced a major crisis.
Well, I don't think anyone anticipated the impact of the shutdown of one facility in the Abbott facility. And it was accurately shut down because the formula was questioned in terms of its purity. And so once we learned of the extent of it and how broad it was, we kicked everything into gear. And I think we're on the way to be able to completely solve the problem.
Yeah, I'm not in the mood to discuss how did this 2-month gap occur and who's responsible. Well, the thing, and my colleagues and I searched this morning in vain. We know how short the supply is. It was 40-some% last week, up to 70% this week. We've heard all the warnings. Don't try to substitute homemade formula because the risk of contamination is great. Don't add water in an attempt to extend it because the nutritional value is there. We know that not every mother can breastfeed, et cetera, et cetera. So the thing that I don't see answered, what's happening to the kids of families who haven't been able to pay 10 times the purchase price on Amazon or haven't been able to borrow from a neighbor? What's happening to those kids? Do you
I
know?
don't know the exact number, but some have absolutely shown up at the emergency room and had to get artificial feeding through intravenous or tube feeding. So there has been fallout already, and it could get worse. And even though you don't care, I'm going to tell you, having a single source of an essential product and finding out after the fact that one plant shutdown means shortage for babies, that's no way to regulate that industry. You've got to have extra oversight on essential products like that. So to me, I don't want to just say, well, great, we can fly it in from Europe or someplace. This calls for a little rethink about, how we oversight essential, I'll call them essential food products.
Isn't it, what is it, 4 companies or
There's
5 that
three or
control
4 companies.
90% of the
Of the
supply?
formula, and we have, which I'm sure we should on many cases have strict rules about the import of formula from other countries. But at the same time, I know plenty of people, rich people, who regularly get their formula from Europe because they think it's better for one reason or another.
Well, we had an outright ban until Biden opened
but they
this
get
up.
It anyway.
Yeah, I understand. I understand that.
So it's
And let me just try to repeat something else. We all know that we see hamburger recalls and salami recalls, salmonella, listeria, many of these spooky microbes that do us harm. I'm going to say flat out, the FDA has been emasculated from doing proper review of food. We all pay attention to drugs. We're not paying attention to food, how it's handled, what's going on with the animals, what's going on in the processing plants. If there's got to be a hamburger recall like once every 3 months. What's going on out there?
Right. Art Caplan, we're speaking with you regarding issues of ethics in the medical community. And we want to talk about this cancer treatment. I'm not sure how you say it. Is it CAR-T?
Yeah.
C-A-R-T?
Yeah.
So this CAR-T treatment, which is a therapy for blood cancers, which my understanding is it converts the immune system's T cells into assassins of cancer, according to a couple of articles. How breakthrough is this treatment? And how widely used is it right now?
So it's a big breakthrough. What they do is they take your cells out of your body, move them to a lab, genetically change them outside your body, bring them back and put them back in you. So that's a pretty cool technique for trying to build more immunity or more aggressiveness toward cancer cells. Problem is there are very few places that can do it. It's a real pain in the neck to do it in terms of safety and purity and all those things. So we don't have enough capacity. We're getting more and more types of cancer that seem to respond to this kind of treatment, but there are very few places that do it. So what it's doing is it's creating rationing. Basically, you're seeing people who are near the centers, have the money, have doctors smart enough to realize that you might need CAR T cell therapy. They're jumping to the head of the line. Folks in rural areas who don't have health insurance, the usual suspects, dare I say, they're not getting access right now. So it often happens with new technologies, and this is one, it starts out scarce. But we've never built a system to make it fair.
But didn't you help build a system on transplantation that was
Yes.
fairer? So why is the system not unlike the transplant situation, which doesn't allow whatever character Kevin Spacey played in that television show to jump to the front of the line? Why isn't a system like that just emulated and superimposed on this thing?
They just won't listen to me.
No, really? Why?
It's pretty simple. It's because there's no coordination demanded of these centers. Each one of them takes its own patients as they wish. The cancer treatments are diverse. So there may be 20 kinds of CAR T cell therapy. It doesn't have the order, if you will, that was sitting there waiting to happen for transplant so you could build a fair distribution system. This thing's all over the place and there's no coordination. You could do it. I'm not saying you can't make it happen, but it's a heavier lift.
Speaking of advances, I have to say there's probably a week doesn't go by that I don't read something about the medical world that literally knocks me off my feet. These stories about this printing, is that the right verb? I don't know what the verb is, of a 3D replacement ear for somebody. If you can first describe what's going on there, and it seems to me as a layperson, the potential, the possibilities for 3D printing organs and things that we've talked to you about being in such short supply that for life-saving transplants as opposed to something like an ear. So tell us what they're doing
Well,
first.
Jim, before Art jumps in, I just want to direct folks to Grey's Anatomy from 7 years ago.
They did it?
Dr. Christina Yang used a 3D printer against the orders of the her doctors to make a portal, I think, for the heart, and they were working also on a liver. So if Art does it, I know he'll be brilliant at it. But if he does it, we can get to Grey's Anatomy and get that on there.
So let's start with Art and see how it goes with him. How about it, Art Caplan?
The printer is kind of like what you use as a printer to print on paper. It just spits out little tiny dots of plastic layer after layer and builds up. Sometimes it's used to make a house. You know, there are 3D printed housing out there. And you can use it to make an ear. One reason I'm a little less excited about the ear is it's cosmetic. That plastic ear doesn't have to hear. It just looks better on your head if you're missing your ear. So, you know, there's no real function, if you will.
Yeah, but for it not to be rejected, correct me if I'm wrong, it's essentially printed from your own cells to begin with, which are then replicated. So, so that's not nothing.
No, that's not nothing, but it's not doing listening. What I'm saying is,
I understand.
Sorry, Grey's Anatomy. I don't think we're making an artificial liver anytime really soon. I mean, it'll happen, I believe, but it's a much tougher project to get a functional internal organ printed. Here's something to think about, which I'll predict we'll all be talking about at a future show. Somebody's going to show up and say, you know, what I'd like is to have ears like Mr. Spock. I think that would be really cool.
I hope not.
Can you, bet on it. Can you print them up for me? Or whatever, I want different colors. It's gonna create a weird cosmetic industry. Trust me, it's coming. It's coming. You can just see people out there saying, hey, you know, you've got a nose ring? Well, forget that. Look at what we could print out for you. And somebody may be saying, you mean they take off their own ear and replace it with one of these things? Yeah.
Wow, I found my next chapter. I'm going to get working on that. I'll be taking seed money for that as soon as we get out of here. That's exciting. That's crazy.
So, Art Caplan, I am probably the most devoted coffee drinker there is. I'm not, my tastes are not as exclusive as high-quality coffee drinkers are, but I read this study, and I had to read it a couple times because the numbers were so stunning. That coffee drinkers who drink, not to excess like I occasionally do, but 1.5 to 3.5 cups a day, sweetened or not, lowers their death risk by 30%? Is that even possible?
So a few background facts. First, it's great that you bring this up on National Donut Day.
Is it National Donut Day?
Yes. Yes.
Well, happy National Donut Day.
There you go. And I know that that's donuts, but you know, who's drinking tea with donuts? Nobody.
Exactly. Fine point.
So you got to get down there and get to your donut facility right away. Another key fact about this coffee thing. Look, I always knew, and I didn't need science to tell me, that dogs are better than cats, Pepsi's better than Coke, and tea drinkers get what they deserve, an early death. It's just a fact. You don't have to study it. You don't need to do it. I think this study is interesting, but is more seriously, as we say here frequently, don't get your hopes up on the single small trial. This was a small study. It was not a randomized trial. It was just an observation. They looked at people's records. They took them at their word about self-reports. Does the whole difference go away if you put sugar in your coffee? I don't know. Cream in your coffee? Who knows? If you drink 8 cups, do you die faster? I don't know. So suggestive, interesting, but I wouldn't necessarily say, oh, you know, let's open up the spigot and I'll just drink as much coffee as I want every day in order to prolong my life. Interesting, got to be confirmed with better studies than the one that came out.
Everything you said is right about observational, et cetera, but here's the woman who's behind this, Dr. Christina Wee from Harvard Medical School and deputy editor of the scientific journal where the study was published. It's huge. There are very few things that reduce your mortality by 30%. So let's assume, for argument's sake, yes, you're right. Of course, there needs to be more testing, more stringent testing. I get back to my first question. If this is anywhere close to true, 30% is like insane, isn't it?
It is totally nuts. Nothing gives, I mean, even if you ran marathons and swallowed only plant foods, I don't think anybody's claiming 30%. So, I mean, let's take it in a different direction. What could it hurt? My grandmother's moral advice. So, drink some coffee.
Here's a toast to you, by the way, from the Newsfeed Cafe. We're talking to Art Caplan, medical ethicist.
So, big news coming out of the Smithsonian, where a dirty cast is going to become a feature in one of their exhibits about this groundbreaking elbow surgery, which I think even if you have no idea who Tommy John is, or you've certainly heard of Tommy John surgery, and tell us what you're writing about and why it's so exciting, Art Caplan.
So Tommy John was a pitcher for the Dodgers back in the 70s, and he suffered a tear of one of the tendons in his elbow, which would certainly be the end of him as a pitcher. But a pioneering surgeon, Frank Jobe, who's still one of the wonders of orthopedic surgery, came up with the idea of doing a transplant, and it worked. And he was able to come back and pitch for many more years and was very successful. The procedure was so startling in its success that Tommy John decided to take the cast that he had kept in his attic, and he kept it not because of the success, but because all the Dodgers had signed his cast. But anyway, he had the thing. And he called up the Baseball Hall of Fame, this is the fun part, and said, "Do you want the cast from this breakthrough procedure?" And they said, "Are you in the Hall of Fame?" And he said, "No." And they said, "No."
That's pretty good.
Then he calls up the Smithsonian, and they say, "Yes." He sort of one-upped them. But the interesting thing, just quickly about his surgery is, I think it's going to start to create a weird new market for you capitalists out there in medical memorabilia. You know, the pig's heart from the first pig transplant. I can see people starting to sell that stuff.
You know, I have one last question about this.
The first blue ear.
I don't know if there's an ethical, well, I don't care if it's an ethical question. If Tommy John's surgery is so successful, which it appears to be, and not only in the case of Tommy John himself, did he come back after the surgery better and stronger and more effective as a pitcher than he was before, and most players today say they're better when they come back. Why aren't more people who have no problems with the tendon in their pitching arm or their tennis playing arm getting the surgery anyway, because it'll make them stronger than they currently are? Do you know what I mean?
Oh, I do. You're right smack on the ethics part of performance enhancement. So I don't need it, but if it made me pitch better, wouldn't I go get it? And I think there have been a couple, not many, but a couple of pitchers I hear have done exactly that and said, why wait? I'm pitching here for 5 years. It's got to be putting wear and tear there. Let's do it now and we'll be better. By the way, Tiger Woods, his golf game improved after he had LASIK. He went to 2010 sight, and few people, Ted Williams might have had that, but it's not commented on that he got a lot better at golf when he enhanced his vision. So it's out there.
There's a number of baseball players who have also had their LASIK done because obviously eyesight with batting is essential. So they're going to have blue ears, Jim, new eyes, and new ligaments in their
It's a
their
beautiful
elbows.
thing. Art Caplan, it's wonderful to see you. Thanks so much. Talk to you next week.
Thanks.
Art Caplan is the Doctors William F. and Virginia Connolly Mitty Professor and founding head of the Division of Medical Ethics at NYU School of Medicine in New York City. Coming up, we've got some live music for you. Live Music Fridays continue at the BPR, at the BPL. We've got a preview of this weekend's inaugural Dorchfest, as they call it. You're listening to Boston Public Radio, 89.7 GBH.
You can find a bit of everything on Angel Olsen's new album, a breakup, a new love, the death of her parents, and a heavy dose of self-reflection.
I wanted to change the way I thought about my life. I want to practice the truths that I feel instead of just talking about it.
That conversation this afternoon on All Things Considered from NPR News.
Today at 4, here on GBH News 89.7.
Our programs are made possible thanks to you and Boston Ballet, presenting Swan Lake, an iconic and beloved ballet live at the Citizens Bank Opera House, May 26th through June 5th. Tickets at bostonballet.org. And Ocean State Job Lot, partnering with customers to help animal welfare organizations throughout the Northeast. Learn more at oceanstatejoblot.com. That's oceanstatejoblot.com.
Welcome back to Boston Public Radio. Jim Browdy, Sue O'Connell sitting in for Marjorie Egan, who's back on Monday. We're at the Boston Public Library. You should be too, but we are streaming for the rest of you at youtube.com/GBH News. This is what I look forward to most every Friday. We're continuing our new tradition, just a couple of months of bringing live music to our Friday library shows. Erin Caldwell, who joins us now, is doing the same for her community over in Dorchester. She's chairing the neighborhood's first annual Porchfest. That's tomorrow, Saturday, June 4th. Runs from 11:30 to 4 in the Ashmont Adams neighborhood. In a little while, we'll be joined by 3 of the more than 40 acts that'll be performing. We'll tell you who they are in a second, and Erin will also tell you how to find out who's playing where and all that sort of thing. Erin, it's great to meet you. We're really excited about this. Nice to see you.
Thanks so much.
You certainly have the best named Porchfest, right? The Dorchfest?
Absolutely. Actually, we saw a comment on one of the articles online that said it sounds too much like Dorkfest. So
What's wrong with that?
We'll take
either
it.
way.
What's the inspiration? I mean, obviously, there's been Porchfest, JP Porchfest, which I think was sort of an inspiration for you as well. What made you say, this is the time, let's get out on those porches and play some great music?
Yeah, so several things. That neighborhood doesn't have anything like that right now, so we thought we need to bring that here. It's a great neighborhood, beautiful homes, beautiful neighbors. And it's a really COVID-friendly event. You know, it's all outside. You can take as much social distance as you like. It's very risk-free, so we're excited to bring that during this kind of crazy time. People are ready to get back together.
And we're going to ask you again, but at the end, but so in case people are driving, don't have an opportunity to write it down or type it into their phone, if people want to find out who's performing where, there is a place to do that, is there not?
Yes, you can go to Dorchfest, DORCHfest.com. There's a tab called Bands. You can sort by genre, or you can just check out the interactive map for the times and locations.
Will you be offended if we cut short our conversation with you now because I'm dying to hear music? Are you okay with this?
Not offended at all.
The first performance is Tim Pitoniak. Tim, how are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
We're going to turn his mic on. And let me say it again. Tim, how are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm going to try it a third time. So, Tim, how are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Oh, you are doing well, apparently. So, what's your deal? What do you do?
My deal, I actually work in disaster response.
Is this working, gentlemen and ladies, or is this?
I'm very light.
We have to turn down the newsfeed monitors, I am told by John back in Brighton. Tim, just hang on 1 second. Apologies for the little bit of a snafu. Can we talk now? Running like clockwork. Tim, so how are you?
I'm doing well. How
Not
are you?
well enough yet, apparently. So, Erin, how have you been,
back
Erin?
to you, Erin.
What do you think about Tim Pitoniak? What is he going
I
to do?
thought that was fabulous.
He
I
was.
hope
He
does
is
more of that.
really, really good. We're going to talk to him in a second, but what's his deal? What is he doing? Do you know?
So Tim is a disaster response professional. He's been in disaster response for 20 plus years. And
This is sort of like a disaster right
It
now,
is a
actually, so
disaster.
it's perfect.
Hopefully
Yeah.
was
he can
unruffled.
fix it.
He was
Yeah.
not ruffled at all. So,
But Tim's great, very creative. He's been in a band for a long time. He's a comic book illustrator and writer. He's a movie script writer. So he's got a lot of creative outlet, and I think this is part of it.
I don't get paid for most
You don't. We can't hear a word he's
Still can't
saying,
hear
but
him.
trust me, he is eloquent. He is really. Now, my next question is: if we choose not to talk to Tim, but ask him to play, are we going to hear him playing, or we won't hear that either? Can someone speak to me quickly, please? Or not?
we're dealing with
Okay, we
technical
need a little
difficulties
guidance,
here
friends,
with
about
Boston
what
Public Radio.
what is going on. Can we get that? Let's keep talking, Erin, for a second.
All right,
Apologies, Tim, and everybody else. We'll get to it in a minute.
All right, Erin. So tell us about you. Like, what brings you to this musical? I mean, it's like
And why
herding
aren't you
cats.
playing
Yeah,
something? That's
what's
what
your
everybody
deal?
wants to know.
It's like herding cats to get everyone to
It
do
would
this.
definitely be a dork fest if I was playing. So I moved to the Ashmont Adams neighborhood in 2020 in May, which, if you remember, was quarantine,
We do indeed.
lockdown, curfews. Didn't really get to know my neighbors, and decided I wanted to change that. So a few of my neighbors are very musical. Kara, who's on the committee, is part of an Afrobeats band, and she was instrumental in getting this off the ground. Rachel, who lives across the street, is also into this. So we kind of got together and said, let's do this. And Ashma
put on a
Adams
show.
Neighborhood Association has been a huge supporter for
And
this.
what's the demographic? I'm assuming from a little bit I've read about this that some people are professional musicians, so
Yes.
this is just a piece of the action, and some people do other wonderful things and love playing music and are doing that. Is that a fair cross-section?
Yeah, so the way we approached the bands was we wanted to represent the diversity of Dorchester. It's the largest neighborhood in Boston. There's a lot of different diversities in that neighborhood, so we wanted to make sure we weren't just doing, no offense to rock bands, but not just 50 rock bands. So we put out the form and asked people to apply to play, but we also were very deliberate. We asked specific musicians if they were willing to play, and part of making this enticing to both ethnic and musical genre diversity was to pay them. A lot of folks told us, we love Porchfests, but we can't do a free show in the middle of January or June, on a Saturday. That's a paying gig for us on a normal, Saturday. So we made it very clear from day one, we're going to pay these folks, and that helped bring the diversity into the show.
And that is such a secret obstacle that people don't think of, to folks who can't, don't have enough money to just live on their own or play gigs that are cheap. If they're working musicians and they don't come from a family or a background where they don't need to worry so much about the rent, they can't play these things that actually spread the word for them.
Now, Erin, we're talking to Erin Caldwell from Dorchfest, obviously in Dorchester. You obviously know a lot about the entertainment industry, correct? So can I ask you this question? Do you think there will come a point when somebody I work with actually tells me what's going on? Do you think that will happen or not?
I think it will. I have
When
a lot
do you
of
think that will
confidence.
happen, if you had to guess?
Hopefully
exactly.
in the next few minutes.
Hopefully in the next few
What we
minutes.
could do is we could move this to them, to him, and he could play on this.
Well, I don't know if he could do that. Is someone going to share with me or Sue at some point in the next 40 minutes if we're going ahead with this?
We're ready
or
to go?
We're ready. So, Tim,
Tim,
how are you?
I'm doing great.
Well, obviously you're still not doing that great. So if Tim plays, are we going to hear anything or? Yes. Let's go. This is really making me anxious, friends. We're okay? Last time, Tim, how are you?
I'm doing good.
No, you're not.
Oh, wait, there we are.
Whoa.
Well, now I'm doing good.
No, you're not. Not good enough.
Okay. Can folks?
Oh, that's good. What are you trying to tell me, Aiden? He can't speak, he can perform. So, Tim, let me just say, you look fabulous.
Thank you.
The guitar's
look great.
beautiful.
Yeah, it's
Love
my
the
dad's
boots. And if you whisper to me what you're going to play, I'll share with the audience. What are you playing?
It's called Spring Break 1864.
Spring Break 1864. And I promise, well, I can't promise you. I'm pretty sure we're going to hear it. Tim Pitoniak.
Thanks, guys. From the cats that were born, you better know things will be worse before the better. Couldn't find your summer song, and can't you stop? Now you're stuck with Eddie Vedder. Woo! Woo! 1, 2, 3, and we go. And I carved your name for the snow. The kids, they want blood, that's how you know. 1, 2, 3, and we go. Hermione Granger stands to me. Hey. And if I see you, I will be. Hey. One kindness from your lips and my life's saved. And you were the bell of every night's rave. Woo! 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 1, 2, 3, and we go. And I carved your name in falling snow. The kids, they want blood, that's how you know. 1, 2, 3, and we go.
Tim, that was great. Thank you so much. And someday maybe we'll have a conversation. Not today.
Not today, my
But we would
friends.
love to have that conversation. Tim Pitoniak will be playing tomorrow at Dorchester. Who are we going to hear from next? I'm very optimistic about the prospects on the next piece of sound. Who are we hearing from next?
The next performer is a woman named Rosa Cesario, and she is a pop singer, and she's fabulous. We're really excited to have
Rosa.
her. Rosa is a Berkeley student and has a very distinctive style, so we're really excited to have Rosa.
Hey, Rosa, how are you? Welcome. I'm great. Where are you from originally?
I'm from Las Vegas, Nevada.
Wow, how is it here?
It's a bit cold.
So here's the quiz. What is the fastest growing county in America?
Oh, well, I don't know. I'm going to assume Las Vegas since you
Clark
asked me like
County.
that.
Isn't that what Las Vegas
yeah,
is?
Clark County, yeah.
So how'd you end up at Berkeley, which we love, by the way, I should say. What's the deal?
Honestly, I've had a passion for music and singing ever since I was a little girl. And growing up, I was self-taught, but by the time I was in high school, I started playing piano, writing my own songs. And it was just, kind of a last-minute decision. I was speaking with a former mentor, and she mentioned that she went to Berkeley, and she said, you should go check it out, because I was interested in studying audio engineering, actually.
It's been a challenge for you guys the past few years, finding places to perform outside, right, with audiences, right?
It's been a bit difficult with COVID. Thankfully, now things are opening back up, and I've been performing all around Boston, all around Vegas. I'm super excited to be performing at Dorchfest, and yeah, it's great.
John Mayer didn't do that badly, and he went to Berkeley. He turned it out fairly.
did all
pretty,
right.
don't
He
you
did
think?
all right.
Melissa Etheridge did okay, too.
Oh, I
think.
forgot it.
Yeah,
That's right,
yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
So what are you performing for us? And are you doing it from there? Is that how we're doing this?
I guess so.
Is that
No, you're going to go over there.
Oh, you're
I'm
gonna
gonna go
there.
back,
But before you
okay.
go back, tell us what you're
Yeah.
doing.
So I'm performing an original song called Simple Things. It was actually inspired by the pandemic, just about, the simple things that we take for granted in our life, and we don't realize what we have and how we miss them until they're gone.
And this is yours.
Yeah, this is mine.
Oh, that's terrific.
All right, go
well,
get
you can put the headphone down
All
quietly
right.
if
And
you'd
do we
like.
have Timmy? Is that Timmy
Yes.
Oh,
on
I'm
piano?
sorry.
Timmy Piano is going to be accompanying you, right?
Yes,
there he is.
he
All right,
is.
all right.
So
Get on over there.
How incredible is it that his last name is Piano? Is
It's
that
amazing.
what
I know, right?
I mean, what
Coincidence?
an incredible coincidence. Okay, if you could go over there, Rosa,
Awesome,
it'd be
thank you.
terrific. Simple things, right?
Yes, simple
Great,
things.
okay. She's going to do this. Everybody in the audience, please cross your fingers. What were you about to say, Erin? Your
No,
mic's
it's
not
not
working
working.
either. This is like radio from hell. Okay, say that again.
An audio engineer if we need one.
We
so,
do.
yeah.
Oh, right. That's a
excellent.
good point. Very good. See,
Okay.
that's an organizer who's planning ahead for problems. I like it.
Now, I want you to know, Rosa, I am not religious, but I'm praying that the sound works nevertheless. So, simple things. About to hear it in a second here. She's adjusting a mic. This is Dorchfest tomorrow. We're going to tell you again how to locate the performers, when they're performing, and where. And Rosa is about seconds away from testing this mic, and we're all hoping for the best.
We good?
Is that working?
No.
Oh,
No.
boy.
Any suggestion, gents and women or coworkers, or no?
It's working.
It is working.
Apparently, yes.
Oh, here it is. Great.
Well, lately I've been working overtime. I spend my days dreaming of a simpler life. Well, lately I've been wondering what's mine. I need more than broken promises and lies. And I can't seem to get it on my mind. Oh, I'm so tired of hurting all the time. Oh, what a shame. The world's a little colder these days. Saying goodbye to all my friends. Wish I could go out again. But how you gonna tell me, gonna tell me, gonna tell me that I'm losing my mind for one of simple things? The world's a little colder these days. Saying goodbye to all my friends. Wish I could go out again. But how you gonna tell me, gonna tell me that I'm losing my mind for one of simple things. Whatever happened to the fantasy of living life like we're on TV? Well, I could tell you about a wild dream that I had when I was 16. I had a little red notebook where I could write down what I think. I was scared to say something, no, I just want simple things, and I can't seem to get them on my mind. Oh, I'm so tired of losing all the time. Oh, what a shame, the world's a little colder these days. Saying goodbye to all my friends, wish I could go out again. But how you gonna tell me that I'm losing my mind for one of simple things? The world's a little colder these days. Saying goodbye to all my friends, wish I could go out again. But how you gonna tell me that I'm losing my mind for one of simple things? Seem to get it on my mind. Oh, I'm so tired of losing all the time. Oh, what a shame, the world's a little colder these days. Saying goodbye to all my friends, wish I could go out again. But how you gonna tell me that I'm losing my mind for one of simple things?
Rosa
Thank you so
Cesario
much.
and Mr. Piano accompanying her. That was fabulous, Rosa.
Great.
Thank you so
Beautiful.
much. Great to meet you both. Thanks for being here. Paul Willis, come on down, Paul. Coming to the mic.
All right, Paul Willis joining us. He's not ready yet, but we're going to.
He's going to be ready soon.
Be
That
ready.
worked. That was very
exciting.
that was very
I know.
exciting.
This is a little warm up for you, a little Porchfest, Dorchfest warm up. Paul Willis, what's your thing? What are you up to?
Hi, everyone.
Hi, Paul.
How's
How
it
are
going?
There's a lot that I'm up to these days.
Yeah, you're a busy man.
Yeah, there's a lot going on. But I'm a hip-hop artist and a spoken word poet. I'm also an educator, and I do consulting work around diversity, equity, and inclusion. A lot of my work is really centered around hip-hop, education, social justice, and building community. So that's what my work is also about.
You're performing this weekend at Dorchfest, but you're also next weekend at the Boston Art and Music Soul Festival, right?
Yes, that's right.
So, Boston's had a bit of a reputation, well-deserved, especially as we're closing the Boston Calling concert from last weekend. So great to see Cliff Notes up on the stage. He had worked so hard to make sure that there was inclusion, had run his own sort of alternative Boston Calling concert for years. Are things changing for artists in Boston, especially hip-hop artists?
I'd like to think so.
Does that mean no?
Well, so that's the thing, is that I think depending on where you're at in your career and where you're entering in the music industry, things might be changing for you, or things might just be the same. For me, I've been observing from afar. I've been in Sacramento, California for the past 10 years. I just moved back in August to take a job with 826 Boston. They're a nonprofit youth writing organization here in the city.
And do you find things different? Better?
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the things that I noticed was that when I left the city, there weren't these opportunities that exist today. And so watching the journeys of Oompa, Cliff Notes, Red Shades, Amanda Shea, Brandy Blaze, so many folks, what you realize is that Boston is leading, particularly Boston's hip-hop artists are leading a lot of the change that's happening, right? They're speaking for people who have never been spoken for, not just in the music scene here in Boston, but also in hip-hop culture. having women, having LGBTQ artists really kind of, take that mantle and really lead the city in these amazing ways has been remarkable to watch from afar.
We have to apologize. I just realized we meant to Red Shades. It was supposed to be here 2 Fridays in a row, and I got COVID 2 times in 3 weeks, and we had to cancel. So apologies, but we're going to hope that that's going to be rescheduled. I'm sorry, Sue.
Yeah, I was just going to say that from my perspective, the hip hop artists in this city during COVID really worked hard to keep people connected and together and lifting each other's spirits when they needed to be lifting. So we welcome you back and can't wait to see you re-engage and recommit to the scene. So that's exciting.
So what are you doing here? I don't mean what are you doing here? I know why you're here. Let me put that another way. What are you going to do for us? And by the way, Red Shade's going to be with us next Friday. Just found out. Nice. What are you doing in a couple of minutes?
I'm going to perform. I have this a cappella piece. I kind of tell people it's my griot piece. For folks who don't know what the griot is, hip hop comes from this lineage, right, and this legacy of these griots from Western Africa who would travel from village to village. They share their stories, their songs, their poems, and just pass that tradition on to the next generation. And so that's a lot of what I do. And when I introduce myself to people, this is the piece that I do.
Fabulous.
Yeah, great.
Paul Willis. Is Paul going to go over there too, friends?
Oh, do you want me to stand right there? Or I can
you're
right
going to
here?
go over.
Okay.
We have great confidence. So, Erin, while we're waiting for Paul to get to the mic that is going to work, I have been assured by my wonderful colleagues, tell us one more time how people get all the logistical information they might be interested in, whether you live in Dorchester or not. Where do they go?
Yeah, dorchfest.com has every single band performance in time, location. We can also sort by genre if you're interested in a certain genre. It also has information about bathrooms and food and all that sort of thing. We've got some local businesses that are doing some specials that day, so it's going to be a neighborhood extensive
and you have
event.
40 plus performers, am I right?
44.
Wow.
That's pretty exciting.
Yeah, that's amazing.
That's really great. Okay, Paul Willis, here's your moment. It's great to have you. Thanks so much. Let's hear it for Paul Willis, please, everybody.
Oh, thanks.
I went from Jamaica Plain all the way to Bodega Bay. Things were straight from 1987 and 98. Then the hits came and it's changed with the quickness. When I was 12, my grandma's diagnosed with a sickness. See, books is black and white. My school was black and white. One of 13 blacks who could bridge that divide. No disrespect, my friends were upper middle class with intellect, stunting in class, cause being street was easy to expect. Black but not hood enough, smart but not good enough. Leader cause I've lost so much that I could erupt. It's only a matter of time before I was out of my mind. Every summer was reckless, my mom was out of a job. Brothers in and out the house, some were friends, others foes. Squares try to keep me boxed in, I stay on my toes, praying to the load. Is this my ceiling or my flow? Can't open the next door until the last one's closed, cause this is straight from my book of rhymes. My book of rhymes, this is straight from my book of rhymes. My book of rhymes, this is straight from my book of rhymes. My book of rhymes, this is straight from my book of rhymes. My book of rhymes. I almost drowned when I was 7. I heard the waves that changed the ship's belly of the beast. I was losing it. Grandma sacrificed hospital nights was a crucifix. My mom was sacrificed by her dad on some voodoo shh. It seems like the dark runs in the family. Veins suffocate my blood clot when you hang with me. Stick and move, kick the kitchen stool, witches brew. I got miles to go before I sleep. Comfortable, still I have no fear. Should have been dead, but it is so clear. There's something more that's meant for me than what I know here. And watch the sun grow into Apollo. Just because you claim to be a leader doesn't mean I will follow. Dreams stuck in between, a couple ounces in a bottle, barely hanging on now. What would I care about tomorrow? Cause I let my future bright with the past full of sorrow. I hope I can feel what's been hollow. Cause this is straight from my book of rhymes. My book of rhymes. This is straight from my book of rhymes. My book of rhymes. This is straight from my book of rhymes. My book of rhymes. This is straight from my book of rhymes. My book of rhymes. Now, the green awaits, couldn't sleep away those dreamer days. You couldn't ride through Bromley Heath without a key to stay. Summer heat ablaze, my OGs kept their beef away from the kids who couldn't claim the corners they patrolled. Had to move through cliques trying to crack the code. No one knew where I lived, see that was tactical. I'm practically an anomaly, actual dramatic comedy. Miracle I made it out based on my geography. Constantly going back, I know my hood is proud of me. Even when we once weren't free, they're not allowed to be. See, the murals are coming down and Hilo became Whole Foods. I used to know all of my neighbors and now I have no clue. Like the scar next to my left eye, I couldn't see this coming.
fighting to survive. They hated black kids busing. Ain't it something? My grandma owned a house when the neighborhood was Jewish. Now I can't recognize it as I walk through it. So this is straight from my book of rhymes. My book of rhymes. This is straight from my book of rhymes. My book of rhymes. This is straight from my book of rhymes. My book of rhymes. This is straight from my book of rhymes. My book of rhymes. Now I'm a rebel without a cause, 11 in my catalog. I invest, so I bet on me, that's what I can afford. And the people love it, they applaud of their own accord. Can write me off while I chart my course. I know I haven't made it yet, dream big, the craziest. Futurists debated best, playing safe ain't the safest bet, but underestimated. Took losses when I played my best, but no regrets, it's all part of the test. Life blessed me with a gift, I'm very diplomatic also. I counted every punch with jabs and hooks to the torso. I seen the best in life, cause I know it when it's awful. I'm not black thought, I'm thoughtful, wishing you were more so. Lyrics like hieroglyphics were written in the source code. My hope is the music brings you peace in your war zone. Boom bap like Morse code, we the people, yeah I thought so. We will all meet at the crossroads, but now I'm lacking competition cause I'm in it by myself. Positioned by the rivers, now I turn them into wealth. I've hit it for long enough, listened for long enough, put one foot in front of the other, now I'm tripping, falling up. The ladder of success starts on the bottom rung. Every day I wake up and look at who I've become, and I'm impressed. I overcame the greatest threats, built a bridge and paved the way for the next. No idea what the future holds, but truth be told, every pen stroke is gold, and I've broken all the molds. I'll never know what it's like to have sold my soul or lose control. Beauty is the sight I behold. I'm writing a renaissance. I'm cut from a different cloth. Savillon, Blanc, and Fromage. I'm a dawn. 11 albums in, and I'm thinking about retirement, but I have the world to inspire me. Thank you. Thank you.
That's really great. Thank you.
I appreciate it.
so much.
Thank
We're
you.
really glad to have you. Wow, you have a hell of a day ahead of you tomorrow.
we sure do. Yeah.
Wow. So you want to give the details? You
Yes.
have them too. Erin, it's great
I
to
do.
meet you.
Erin,
And lots of luck
thank you
tomorrow.
so
Really
much.
exciting.
Thanks
It's
so
great.
much. Erin's the chair of the first annual Dorchfest. The event is Saturday, June 4th from 11:30 to 4 in the Ashmont Adams neighborhood. You can get more information at dorchfest.com. Our performers, once again, Rosa Cesario, Tim Pitoniak,
Yep.
and Paul Willis. All right, after a short break, we talked with Callie Crossley about the dramatic conclusion to the Scripps National Spelling Bee. Every year we love giving these kids their props, but even more, we love turning the tables over to you, our listeners. It's time for our annual Boston Public Radio Spelling Bee. If you want to take part, give us a call now, 877-301-8970. You're listening to Boston Public Radio 89.7 GBH.
A recent report reveals Southern Baptist Convention leadership ignored and intimidated survivors of sexual abuse while protecting and harboring abusers. Is meaningful accountability possible within the nation's largest Protestant denomination? I'm Melissa Harris Perry, and that's next time on The Takeaway from WNYC and PRX.
This afternoon at 2, here on GBH News 89.7.
Support for our programs comes from you and 30 Tigers, presenting Dark Enough to See the Stars, the new album from Grammy-nominated singer-songwriter Mary Gauthier. The album is available at your local record store now. And Newport Mansions. You can join them for an evening with Lady Carnarvon of Downton Abbey's Highclere Castle. Cocktails, hors d'oeuvres, and live music follow her presentation June 23rd at 6:30 at Rosecliff or via Zoom. NewportMansions.org.
Welcome back to Boston Public Radio. Jim Browdy, Sue O'Connell sitting in for Marjorie. Marjorie's back Monday. We are at the Boston Public Library, streaming at youtube.com/GBH News. By the way, first, thanks to our colleagues who rescued the sound. I know that was no mean feat. We really appreciate it. So to close out the show, we thought it'd be fun to return to an annual Boston Public Radio tradition. If you missed it, this week, school kids from across the nation gathered to compete in the Scripps National Spelling Bee. Last night, 14-year-old Harini Logan took home the title winning in a final 90-second speed round, first time ever, against 12-year-old Vikram Raju. Here's just a little bit of sound from that moment of victory.
Spielbone.
Spealbone.
Phreatophyte.
Phreatopyte.
Gaidiang.
Gaydiang.
Parison.
Parison.
Exemer.
Exeim.
That causes me too much anxiety. Enough of that. Here's how this is going to work. You call us. You can't text for this. At 877-301-8970. Then we give you one of the actual words used during this year's spelling bee. You try to spell it. If you do it correctly, you'll hear this sound. Thank you. Better late than never. And if you don't, you will hear this sound. Exactly. Now, we had cash prizes, but we spent it on lunch. So here's the deal. Sue and I have dozens of words from the actual script spelling bee. There are 22 words on the sheet we each got. I am telling the honest-to-God truth. Remoulade is the only word out of 22 that I've ever heard of before in my whole life. You heard any of these?
Yeah, no, I am a editor of a newspaper.
You are too.
2 newspapers, and that's the only one. That's the only word I know. I don't know any of these other words. Which mean, why do they exist, Jim?
Well, see, that's part of my trouble.
Existential issue here.
Beyond the torture of these kids in some situation by their parents, the fact that the words are not words that normal people or even abnormal people would ever use is troubling. Having said that, I'm totally into the competition, and since we ran a little late with Dorchfest because of our small technical problems, we're short on time here. So if you're going to participate, please act now. 877-301-8970. And you're not going to be humiliated because nobody can spell these words. Oh, what we're going to do also, this is actually very nice of us. Even though we're not sure we can pronounce them that well, we will pronounce them as best as we can. And then to help you, probably not at all, we will give you the definition of the word.
I like that.
And that will hopefully propel you to spell this thing right. And there is a feeling of relatively great satisfaction if you're able to get it right. 877-301-8970.
Did you
Call
ever
us now.
participate in a spelling bee as a kid?
You know, this is horrible to say. This is really, I'm not sure if I did.
It's a long time
I really
ago.
don't remember. Well, I remember a lot of things,
Yeah.
but I don't remember that. Did you?
No. No.
I'm a fairly good speller, actually.
I'm dyslexic. So
well, that's a problem.
That's a problem
for
the
this
spelling,
in particular, yes.
and the reading and the pronouncing. So I think I found ways not to participate.
Can you do me a favor while we're waiting to take calls at 877-301-8970? Don't look at your sheet.
Okay.
Okay. I would like you, Sue.
Oh boy.
This is Sue O'Connell, by the way, to spell tectite. It is a glassy body, as I'm sure you know, of probably meteoric or meteoritic origin and of rounded but indefinite shape. I'll repeat the word, tectite. How do you spell that, please?
From the Latin tech, T-E-K-T-E-T-E.
Thank you very much. That was close, though. That was actually, it's T-E-K-T-I-T-E.
Okay.
Now, they're screening the calls. What do we call this? Our customer service representatives,
yes.
Our colleagues are screening the calls. We'll get to them in about 30 seconds. Give me one.
Okay, you
I'm
ready?
not looking. Yep.
Powys, an administrative area of East Central Wales bordering on England.
T-E-K-T-I-T-E. Is that correct?
No, Jim.
What is the word again?
Powys. P-O-W-Y-S.
P-O-W-Y-S.
Yes, yeah, that's how you spell it.
That's how you spell it.
I don't even know.
Okay, Kat in the car, you are first on Boston Public Radio. Kat, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Are you a good speller or not?
I'm pretty good.
All right, we'll see. We'll be the judge of that.
You pick one,
Okay,
Sue.
you ready?
I'm ready, yeah.
All right, ditalini. Short elbow-shaped pieces of macaroni. Ditalini.
This is doable.
Ditalini?
Ditalini.
Ditalini.
D-I-T-O-L-I-N-E?
I'd say close enough.
Yeah.
That was 2 vowels off. How is the correct spelling?
D-I-T-A-L-I-N-I. Okay, we'll give you
how
another
you feeling?
chance.
How you feeling, Kat?
Okay.
All right.
Okay, we're going to give you a second one because we're in that kind of mood. The only word, as I say, I know on the whole list is remoulade. Salad or seafood dressing made with, I didn't know this, hard-boiled egg yolks, oil and vinegar, and flavored with mustard, capers, and herbs. Remoulade, how do you spell that, Kat?
R-E Semoulade.
Ding, ding, ding
Ding,
for
ding,
Cat
ding.
in a
All
car.
right,
Cat,
Cat.
thank you much. Wild
Well
applause
done.
at the
Well
library
done.
for
They're
you,
going
too.
crazy for you, Cat. It's
Thank
so
you very
exciting.
much. 877-301-8970.
All right.
And by the way, Jamie, our executive producer, says, I was eliminated from the first round of my 5th grade spelling bee. I was asked to spell calm, and I spelled clam.
Same thing.
But that's had all the letters in there.
That
It's
is-
like a jumble word.
It's been the thesis of the day. We talked about clams with Barbara Lynch, so we're moving along. All right, let's go to Roger, who's calling from Putnam. Roger, welcome to our spelling bee.
Hey, Roger, how are you?
Hey, how you doing?
Good.
Doing
You ready?
fine, thanks.
I'm doing the one for you. How you feeling? Are you confident or nervous?
I am. I'm pumped up.
You you are. Okay. So how about this? Coneraceous. Now, coneraceous obviously means, I'm sure you know this, of or relating to a family of mostly tropical climbing shrubs or small trees. What is it again? Coneraceous.
Conoraceous.
Can I tell you something?
That's
Even
close.
though you got it wrong, you were so confident. Can we have the correct sound for him? Because thank you.
We'll give it to him.
That was.
Thank you so much.
That was good. It was Connaraceous. Did you do these spelling bees when you were a kid?
Yeah, I did. Grade 7 champion.
You were? What was the
you
word?
get a round
People are
of
applauding, or
applause.
one person's
What?
applauding anyway. What? 2 people, thank you. What is the? What was the word you spelled correctly to win the whole shebang?
Rhythmic.
Ooh, that's a hard one.
RHYTHMIC.
Ding, ding, ding.
Thank you very much. I could have won your 7th grade, whatever
I
the hell
wouldn't
it
have.
is.
I still spell it wrong. Every single time I spell it wrong. Still.
Roger, before you leave, and I mean this, how great did it feel to win the spelling bee? Was that great?
Oh, well, I was a stud around 7th grade, believe me.
Oh, that is.
See, and he overcame it.
That's pretty
such a
good story. Hey, Roger, we're really glad you called. Thanks so much for your call.
See how helpful the spelling bee
No,
is,
it's true.
Jim? It helps people. All right.
Have
Deb,
you ever used the word coneraceous?
I
in a
haven't
sense?
used any of these words.
By the way, if we were nice enough, which one of us is, to have our coworker go to the mic in the studio at the library, do any of you want to try this? Is there anybody courageous enough to?
Come on up.
Boy, that a lot of. You?
Come on.
Get
come
over
on.
here. The guy with the beard in the middle. Go. We'll take another call, and then we're going to take this guy.
All right, Deb.
Walk over. This is Rebecca over here.
Go see Rebecca. Deb, welcome to the Boston Public Radio Spelling Bee. Are you ready? Deb?
That's a yes or no question, Deb.
You with us, Deb? It's that kind of day.
We'll put Deb on hold.
Deb left.
Let's go to Bob. Truroville? Is that Truro or some other
Truroville.
ville? Where are you, Bob?
Truro.
Truro,
Yeah,
one of
we
my
know what
favorite
Truro is.
towns
Yep.
on the planet, I should say.
Coin
Bob,
Hill.
welcome to the show. You
All
do
right,
it.
You ready for this one? Okay.
Sure.
Sarah, a fragrant grass of southern Asia. Sarah.
Serah.
Oh,
Well, that's also really,
very close.
really. Now,
Be-
Bob, like the prior caller, have you ever been a participant in a spelling bee?
No, but I would have got Ray Millard.
Well, you know what we'll do, because you sound like a decent guy and I love Truro. How do you spell remoulade, by the way, Bob? Do you have any idea?
Remoulade.
Let's
There
give
you
him
go.
to
Very
him.
good.
Thank you,
get
Bob.
it.
You're an
Okay.
honest soul.
Sarah was Sereh.
Oh, I forgot it. You know, by the way, you do it exactly like they do it. You say the word with some emphasis, you read the definition, and then with a slight pause, you say
it
the word again. I love that.
I try to be a pro.
Okay, you look familiar. Do I know you or I don't?
I'm here every week.
Oh, well,
Oh, there you go.
well, thanks for coming. You're really sweet to do that. What's your name?
Tony.
Do you have any idea how to spell anything or no?
A few.
A few.
Okay,
Okay.
okay.
Sue, because she's kinder than I, is going to give you the thing here. Go ahead, Sue.
Okay. Trying to find what I can pronounce. Sedile, one of usually 3 seats in the chancel of a church near the altar. Sedile.
Okay. That's going to be Setaisle.
I'm going to pronounce it again because perhaps it was my pronunciation.
By the way, can I just say in defense, it's Tony, right?
Yeah.
You got 1 letter right. So that's
Yeah,
really,
all
that
right.
is a
You
very,
ready?
very good start. Give him another one.
Ready? Another word?
Oh,
or
give him
two?
that one
I guess
again.
We'll try this one again. Sedile. Sedile.
Okay, so the S is right.
Yeah,